Just waiting for Jim and Joe to give me some good news. It's 8 o'clock. Where are you guys? Waiting for my good news. Get your fat ass online already.
We've even seen a referee 2 feet from the play on the sideline staring at the guy trying to catch the ball, staring at where his feet are, and still calls him out.
Get ready for 2 hours of hitting football talk from two men in the know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer, absolutely, and showing that he could possibly be the GOAT.
All right, but I gotta say something about the New England Patriots here. The Patriots kept coming out and saying before the Super Bowl even happened, they kept saying, "Oh, well, everybody's against us." Bullshit.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the No Show. And
What the frick?
it took us forever to get on. We apologize to all the know-it-alls out there and to all the new viewers that were trying to watch us. Unfortunately, we ran into a lot of technical difficulties. As you can probably tell, that Jimmy's mic that used to sit in that little holder right there is now like a very mini mic, and we're trying to get this thing to work and get the show going for you guys. So we apologize. We're about an hour late. And let's get right into the football topics right now. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, take a week off and Joe breaks all my stuff. That's the way it goes, I guess.
Not true. So,
but luckily I have extra stuff lying around, and I had this clip-on mic that I'm trying to use tonight, so I hope it works out all right. Hope I don't sound too horrible. I'm also dealing with a sinus infection, so I'll try and make it through here tonight. But
power through.
yes, we're going to. Yes. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the NFC, AFC South. And we're going to do some reviews here. So anybody who's familiar with our show, we're doing this when we first started, a couple years ago as a podcast. And what we like to do is go through the divisions and just kind of recap on, the changes that they made quick, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of it, we just kind of do a prediction on how we think the division is going to pan out. This is all early still, but we got preseason games going on and stuff. Yep. And a lot of interesting stuff, with the camps going and preseason games. Everybody's going to be playing this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of changes for all the teams.
So
it's basically
injuries
an
could
overview.
happen too, so we're going to kind of take a stab at it. And we always like to take a look at the end of the season, see how we did, despite, with any kind of injuries and stuff. So it'll be fun. Okay, so NFC, we're going to go with the NFC first and look at the Atlanta Falcons, Joe. All right.
Yeah, the Atlanta Falcons, a very high-powered offense. We already know that. However, their decline last year was much to the demise of their defense. Their defense was heavily injured right up through the middle of that defense. Deion Jones went down. Grady Jarrett also went down. They're all-pro D tackle. I mean, middle linebacker. Both safeties, not just one, but both safeties. Keanu Neal and Ricardo Allen and all these other guys. They just kept getting injured. So this defense, every time they stepped foot on the field, Desmond Trufant, another guy that went down. So they had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball still did their fair share. They still kind of pushed through it, still scored points, but they also lost a weapon in Devontae Freeman at running back. So both sides had their issues, and now coming back for this season, they're healthy, they're ready to go. They're flying around in training camp. They're making plays. They still have Julio Jones, that contract that everybody is wondering what that number is going to be when that deal gets done. Going to be in the top 3 somewhere. So Julio Jones, they're very close to getting a deal done with him to renew his deal. Mohamed Sanu's coming back, but here's the real question mark: is Mohamed Sanu's coming back? I'm hearing some reports out of Atlanta that Mohamed Sanu isn't exactly a shoo-in as a starter, and for that outside. Like I'm wondering if Calvin Ridley is going to make that push for that outside job there with Mohamed Sanu, forcing maybe Sanu to either get cut, be a salary cap cut from the Atlanta Falcons, or perhaps maybe shifting him on the inside. So that's something to keep an eye on. But other than that, the other thing what was the main thing for Atlanta Falcons to do, right? Offensive line. They needed to protect Matt Ryan. They needed to give him time, open up running lanes for Devontae Freeman, and they did that in the draft. We saw them go heavy in the first round. They drafted not one but 2 offensive linemen in the first round. One of them was Chris Lindstrom, which is one of the best guards coming out of the draft. Another guy who was in the top 5 talk out of tackles is Caleb McGarry. Now, unfortunately, McGarry just suffered an injury that's going to keep him out 6 to 8 weeks. So hopefully it's on the shorter term than longer term for them because they're going to need this guy to pan out for them. He's going to miss the whole training camp. So that's unfortunate, especially for a rookie to come in who's got to learn a lot. He's got to learn the playbooks. He's got to establish chemistry with that line. That's the unfortunate part for them. So they have a couple of new rookies coming in and seeing what they can do. Now, you also got to remember, too, Devontae Freeman coming back healthy yet again for this offense. So this offense is still high-powered, still something to worry about. And then you go on the flip side of it and you look at their defense. The defense, heavily injured. Now they're coming back healthy. They've made some additions. They also made some additions by subtractions. They've made their fair share of turnover. I mean, they just recently added D-line help, and Alan Bailey, who was out there in free agency. He was with the Niners. He was with the Chiefs. A good veteran defensive lineman to have. Not to mention also, who I'm really high on is Tyler Davidson. Tyler Davidson came from the New Orleans Saints, and he wreaked havoc in the backfield at D-tackle. So I think that's a nice addition for them to go right next to Grady Jarrett. That's kind of a scary combo there in the middle of that D-line. Tack McKinley. He's got to take a big step up. He's got to be the pass rusher that they drafted in the first round. He's got to take a huge step for them to get anywhere further as far as this pass rush goes. And then you look at their, Vic Beasley. He's returning, but he's a disappointment. Let's face it. He's a bust.
He's got to step up this year.
He was a high first-round pick and has yet to show. I mean, I don't know if is it the defensive scheme that's being used right now, because he's been there for a while and hasn't shown any results in being that DN to get after the quarterback and get those sacks. Devontae Campbell, he's a corner. He's another big piece to this linebacking core. He kind of goes under the radar a little bit because of Deion Jones, obviously. But Deion Jones is returning healthy. Desmond Trufant returning healthy. Keanu Neal, Ricardo Allen, like we mentioned before. Isaiah Oliver. Now, this is a young kid who I think he's going to make a name for himself. He was drafted in the 2nd round this year, and watch out because he has the intangibles that you're looking for in a corner. So if he can develop quickly and learn this defense, watch out for him to just start week 1. I fully expect that. And they also have like a plethora of depth there at defense. They bring in Bruce Carter at linebacker and that sort of speak. So now you look at the whole overall team here. So they made some additions. They've strengthened some weaknesses. Obviously, they're crossing their fingers right now to get McGarry back as soon as possible. So I look for this team to take a step forward versus what they had last year. And just like if they stay healthy, who knows? Sky's the limit.
All right, somebody's here, Joe. It's Hollywood Gaming.
Hollywood's starting off early.
The champ is here.
And I say early, but we're an hour late.
Yeah, exactly. So he's in on it right now. This is peak Hollywood Gaming time, dude. He's here.
That's
and
right.
This guy
That's right.
is just unbeatable. Always the
I'm telling you.
the MVP of the week. So
I just have to say this for all you.
Somebody's got to try and take him down.
So if all you noodles out there, if you don't already know, what we're doing is we're doing kind of like a contest, if you will. If you have the most MVP entries week to week, by the end of the season, we're going to be giving away a gift. Now, we are not going to disclose that information, what kind of gift it is, but nonetheless, it'll be a Football on the No show gift of some sorts. And I'll tell you right now, Hollywood Gaming is absolutely running away with it right now.
Yeah.
Early on, you had Mike Tackett in there, you had Cody Cook, you had Jack Cook in the mix, you had
Zach Walker's been
Zach
there
Walker
too,
was
and
in
a
there
bunch of our
too.
know-it-alls.
So now Hollywood is kind of running away with it. He's getting a bigger lead on you guys, and I'm sorry, if you want to win that gift at the end of the year, you better come in hard here.
Yeah, definitely. So he says Vic Beasley to me is one-dimensional, and he only speed rushes from the outside. I think the O-line's picked up on it and just cut him out.
Yeah, they push him out
okay.
wide.
Oh,
They
yeah,
push
yeah,
him out
yeah,
wide.
yeah.
So Hollywood, you're absolutely right, and that's the thing. Is Vic Beasley? He was supposed to be this star-studded pass rusher that they drafted high in the first round. They thought that was going to be the answer to all their pass rushing woes, and he still hasn't panned out. I don't know if you could put him in maybe a 3-4 defense. Maybe he would excel or not, but I think defensive end is his worst position to play. He's very athletic. I get it, but when it comes to going against those big tackles, he seems to struggle, and just like you were mentioning there, he does get shedded outside, and he just has one move. And it's unfortunate because he's been in the league for so long. You'd think the guy would learn some pass rushing moves other than I'm just going to try to beat you with my speed.
Yeah, and you brought it up earlier about the defense. They were just so injury prone, last year and stuff. It just killed them. And this offense seemed like it was stuttering again a little bit. It seems like Matt Ryan was never really comfortable in the Steve Sarkisian type of offense. Doesn't really click it, and it seemed like last year especially he relied on Julio Jones. He kind of went one-dimensional on that. Julio got another bunch of receptions, didn't get in the end zone still as much as he does, but gathered up a bunch of yards like he was doing.
Right.
And so that is not a healthy offense, that we've seen with this team before. You got to spread it around. You have all these weapons to use, and you're not doing it. And like you said, maybe Mohamed Sanu might be a casualty here because Justin Hardy's a nice spot here too as well. And Calvin Ridley started to shine last year.
Big time
You're
as a rookie.
Only hoping that this year he's going to be also involved in the offense here. And they've got a great tight end in Austin Hooper as well. So we'll see where that lies. Now, like you said, also, Devonta Freeman's got to stay healthy, and he's running the show by himself here. And maybe they're going to throw Ito Smith here and there, but this is the first time he's got it by himself without Tevin Campbell here.
And that's the interesting thing, too, about Devonta Freeman is the last time that he had sole hold of that featured back, he went off. He was insane. Like he almost eclipsed 1,000 yards receiving and rushing. It was amazing. And for fantasy owners out there, they were really cashing in on Devonta Freeman. Another thing, too, that I wanted to point out is new offensive coordinator. Just like you were just saying, Dirk Cutter, is now hired to take over that offense. And I think it's going to pan out well because when Dirk Cutter last was just an offensive coordinator, he is an offensive guru. He knows how to move the ball and score points. So I think you're going to see a little bit of a different offense from this Atlanta team and one that's going to be tough to stop going down the field.
Yep, and you brought up the defense. I was going to bring up Deion Jones again. This was a star that we saw blooming, and it came to fruition here as we thought. And they just sealed another big deal with him to make sure he was secured financially. So that was a big move by them,
right?
Especially with some of the money they have invested on the offense.
Exactly. For the past year, no team has spent more money on players than the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they just re-signed their all-pro D tackle and Grady Jarrett. They re-signed Deion Jones and locked him up. And Desmond Trufant was also re-signed. So they're taking a lot of the younger cornerstones of their defense and offense, and they're trying to hold on to everybody and build around them. So smart decision-making by the Atlanta organization.
Definitely. Bar with me because I got this different microphone, so and it's just tough. I still feel myself breathing and everything, and I can't help it. I'll try not to make it so horrible here for you. But my microphone died, so we'll see what happens. Hollywood Gaming says here it's going to be the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Defenses are going to pick up on his run game, and he will have a very hard year if he can't throw the ball more accurately in the pocket. And I talked about this with some know-it-alls today because there was an article out there about four teams from a previous year who made the playoffs aren't going to make it the next year. It's like a given stat. Yeah. So they threw it out there and told me who I thought was not going to make it. I saw the Baltimore Ravens bouncing out of this. One, they got rid of a lot of their veterans and grabbed youth on that defense. And then two, Lamar Jackson's second year seeing what, the teams have seen him already. So now they have the highest rushing offense pretty much in the NFL, and with him under it, they're going to try and test him to try and throw it deep and see what they've got. And they shedded some of their wide receivers. So I just see them taking a decline here. And like Hollywood Gaming says here too, I think they're going to tee it up and just go off on Lamar
Yeah,
Jackson.
and that's the thing, too, is whenever you have a first-year starter and a quarterback, a lot of defenses are taken by surprise because they don't know what their tendencies are. They don't have game film on them to game plan against. So now you have a whole year on Lamar Jackson, and if you were paying attention into the playoffs with the Chargers and the Ravens when they had their game, what did the Chargers do that was very unique? They had 3 safeties in linebacking positions, not linebackers. They had 3 safeties. So that was their way to game plan against him. And sure enough, it worked out to a T because Lamar Jackson had, and we all know this, in college he had struggles throwing the deep ball. In college he had, whenever there was pressure broke down, he just took off and ran. And it reflected that in the NFL. A lot of times when the plays weren't there, he looked to run first. He didn't even keep his eyes down the field to look for that next, the drop down, the drop down pass or just to drop it off to the tight end or something short.
Yeah, the checkdowns.
The checkdowns. And now teams got a whole year of game film on him. And teams are paying attention what the Chargers did to him. I'm just saying, when they have game film, now they're able to game plan against that player, and it's going to be a different outcome the next time they meet. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, everybody wasn't quite sure what kind of a quarterback he was, the tendencies, what he struggled with, what his strengths were, what his weaknesses. Now they know. And you're going to see a whole different year. He's not going to come anywhere close to 50 touchdown passes. That was just an anomaly. That was amazing and good for him. But this year going to be much different.
Joe, we've got somebody chiming in here. It's Greg Schreiner. He says my microphone.
Greg's here. Nice.
Yeah, Greg. We haven't seen Greg in a long time. He says my microphone sounds fine. That's good. That's
great.
excellent.
Great
cool.
to know.
I hope so. All right,
Welcome
Hollywood
back, Greg.
Yeah,
Welcome
definitely,
back.
man. We haven't seen you in a long time. We appreciate
it's been
you stopping
so
in.
long.
All right, and Hollywood Gaming says, I don't know, he didn't get seriously hurt or anything, but he did get hurt a few times and had to come out of the game, and it's hard to think that with his play style he could stay healthy for a whole season. Plus his stature. The guy is tiny with a big head. You know what I mean?
And it's funny you say that because
really,
as much as that was a criticism last year, he's put on like another 20 pounds of muscle now. So now he has time to not worry about schooling and academics and football. Now it's all football. So he's worked hard in the offseason to get his weight up. He has added some muscle, and hopefully that'll work out for him, as far as staying healthy. But we'll have to wait and see how it all develops on the field.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're talking about the NFC South right now. We're doing a review. We just covered the Atlanta Falcons a little bit. Now let's get into the Carolina Panthers. This team, I think, has a bit of question marks, for me at least. The defense is changing a little bit here as well. They've got Bruce Irvin now, and they also went out and picked up Gerald McCoy, too. He was unhappy in Tampa and everything. He goes back in Carolina now. He feels like he's at home. But then on the offensive side, they Cam Newton. How injured is he? I mean, now you're hearing, is he even going to start week 1 or not? I mean, are we going to see, Kyle Allen, or are we going to see Will Grier early? I mean, what's this preseason going to look like? I mean, this could be scary here.
Don't worry about Cam Newton. He's been medically cleared. He's been in training camp. He's been practicing right now. So all those worries can be pushed aside right now.
Right.
Although I will, you should worry about Cam throwing the football.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's like we'll see another year here of DJ Moore, too, as well. And is Christian McCaffrey going to equal a year that he had last year? You talk about seeing a guy for the first time, seeing what he could do. He had to be their whole team, much like Russell Wilson had to be the whole team for the Seattle Seahawks. This guy, they're like, Christian, can you run it? Can you catch it? Can you do special teams? What else can you do? Help us out.
He can do everything.
He did pretty well. So, I mean, one of the top running backs in the league here. And I think to some people's surprise, but, I wasn't sure last year how he's going to handle the workload by himself. Well, he shut me up right away. So, because he did. He took it and took the ball and went further. Now, I mean, we'll see what happens now with this defense that's changing a bit here. So, what do you think about the defense here, Joe?
The defense, I'm not really too worried about the Panthers' defense because year to year to year, whether it be a minor change or a major change, they always seem to play very well. They always seem to be one of those top 15 defenses no matter what happens. You look at Luke Kuechly. He's always returning. He's the quarterback of this defense. He's going to make sure that everybody is in the right spot every single down. So I'm not really worried about the mental aspect of the defense. I think they're still going to be good. But here's the thing: is you look at this D-line right here. Everybody, Jared McCoy's older and everything else. His stats kind of like maybe dipped down a little bit the past season.
His work ethic was taken into question.
His work ethic, well, he took really, he was really angry about that whole thing because he just called out the media and said, "How dare you question my work ethic? I am here. I work hard every offseason and all that." But the Panthers, they might have one of the harder and toughest defensive lines to beat in the NFL because not only did they manage to obtain Gerald McCoy, but they also got Dontari Poe from the Atlanta Falcons, who actually the Falcons were really upset that they weren't able to keep him there because he played so well for them. But they managed to add Poe, they add McCoy, and here's the other interesting thing is they also have Kawan Short at D-tackle. So this is going to be interesting to see. As of right now, they have Jared McCoy at left defensive end on the depth chart, which is interesting because he's never played defensive end before. And I'm sorry, but I think it's going to have to be a three-way rotation with these D-tackles. Get them a lot of playing time, keep them fresh, keep them rotated, and it's going to be really hard on the interior offensive lines to deal with. Mario Addison, he's a guy that doesn't really get talked a lot about, but for this Panthers defense, he's quite the pass rusher. And they don't forget Brian Burns, who they just drafted in the first round. Yeah. I think he's gonna end up either playing left or right side. But here's the other thing that's a problem for me, anyways, is this defense is a 3-4 defense. Now that you have this 3-4 defense, Brian Burns is now going to become a linebacker. Can he? Yes, he can. He's very athletic. He has speed. But it's that mental aspect. How much is he going to be able to learn to play that 3-4 linebacker position? That is uncertain. That's a little concerning. You look at McCoy, Poe, and Short, all three guys at the defensive line position. That's something to worry about. Though you keep those 3 D tackles out there at all times, watch out. You have Shaq Thompson, who's been there. He's a vet. He knows what he's doing. Luke Kuechly right next to him. And Bruce Irvin is an interesting add. But might I add that Bruce Irvin is no way, shape, or form a really good player. We've seen him go from Seattle to Oakland. Now he's with Carolina. I think he was a year ago. I think he went somewhere else. But now he's with the Panthers, and they're going to look to him for some pass rush. And just like the Atlanta Falcons, Butler,
Vic Beasley.
Vic Beasley.
Yep.
Vic Beasley. Just like him, he's the same guy. He runs to the outside, and he doesn't really have any counter moves to get to the inside. He's going to be pushed out, and I don't see him being a major factor. Brian Burns, on the other hand, I would definitely worry about. Tremendous speed, tremendous athletic ability. Now you go to the corners. Dante Jackson, returning second-year player, still going to continue his development and getting to be a better player. Eric Reed at safety, a decent safety, but he's had his fair share of bad storylines following him around, a little bit of a bad attitude, and that's going to be interesting to watch. But nonetheless, Trey Boston, who the Giants had in on a workout basis, I thought the Giants were going to just close the door and say, hey, he's ours. Yeah. Sign him away. We got him. We got some depth. We got a possible starter at hand. But in the end, he ends up leaving in the Carolina Panthers, which was a surprising team to me, but I do see that they do need help in that back end. Yeah. He ends up filling a big void for them and making the secondary stronger. James Bradbury, another veteran there. And another interesting add that they at cornerback is Ross Cockrell, who was with the Steelers, who was with the Giants for a short amount of time. Now he finds his way there to hopefully strengthen that depth there. But overall, this defense, I think, is going to be just fine. I think that with this 3-4 scheme, I think just like the Giants, they had to go through some growing pains. And I think that's going to happen with the Panthers. I think with all the veterans that they have on the team, I don't think they're going to have to go through as much of a learning curve as the Giants did with some of their youth. So I think that they may they may be ahead a little bit in that aspect, and I think they'll be still have a solid defense.
Now with Ross Cockrell, he was their spot right there. He had it until they grabbed Trey Boston because he was there and he's obviously better. So that kind of bumps him down and where he would probably have to play the dime back set and not the starting safety.
And good.
It's
good, though.
Better because once you get Trey
Because-
Boston there, he's definitely an upgrade. That's
Because
why I
Ross
would've loved to
Cockrell's
have
not a
him in there,
safety.
too.
He's not a safety. He's a corner
and
all day long.
He's not very good. So I mean, that's an improvement right there that helps out the team absolutely. And Hollywood Gaming brings up about Cam Newton. I saw him in an interview saying that he doesn't need to throw 60 yards to be good. Talking about Cam, he said, "Yeah, but I think he'll be fine. He's got a lot of options on offense. Christian at halfback and Greg Olsen at tight end." Yeah, he has a lot of options to dump it off to, definitely. And you've seen the difference with this Norv Turner offense, how they try and cater to it to get it going for him and establish a nice running game to get it going. That's what Norv Turner always did. He was famous for doing it when they were San Diego with LaDainian Tomlinson and things. He knows how to make it work. He can run an offense. Maybe not head coach so much, but he can be offensive coordinator. And you definitely will see some good days here from Cam Newton. And he has a lot of weapons to use to do it.
But that's the unfortunate part is the weapons that he's had in the past. You can make and point fingers. Oh, Kelvin Benjamin was terrible, but not with the Carolina Panthers. They had Kelvin Benjamin and Devin Funchess both together with Greg Olsen. And they were tough to beat with those guys. Cam Newton, I think that worked out best for him is when he had those big receivers, and it made it easy. It made the throws easier for him to make. Because of those big stature type receivers. Now you don't have Funchess anymore. You don't have Benjamin anymore. Now you have DJ Moore, who's a lot shorter than those guys. Yes, he's still a strong type of guy. He's more like in the mold of a Steve Smith. He's strong. He's fast. He has to get open. I think in order for Cam Newton to connect with them. And don't get me wrong, Cam Newton has a very strong arm. He's very athletic, but this offense is based on running. They run the ball, whether it be with Cam, they run the ball whether it be Christian McCaffrey, and they dump the ball off. Greg Olsen is a big question mark this year because for 2 straight years he's been injured and hasn't been able to contribute to this team. So that's got to be a little bit of a concern. Is he going to still be there throughout the year? And will Cam Newton be able to connect with his receivers? So this team likes to run heavy a lot because they play off with Cam Newton's athletic ability, the play action, he can run and all that. And a lot of times it goes against them because when they're down in games, when the Saints are ahead by 3 touchdowns, Cam Newton cannot bring this team back just by throwing, and that's the concern. So if they get down early, they're going to have a long season ahead of them. So, but we'll have to wait and see how it all works out.
Yeah, so I think definitely the health of Greg Olsen is a big part of this and a big cog in this big machine that they have going on
Definitely.
here. And maybe we'll see a resurgence of Chris Hogan and Torrey Smith now, too. He's on the decline, but he's a veteran now. He's been there for
Still
a while,
got
so
speed.
he could still in a big target. So that's what he loves, like we brought up before with Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah,
and
they
stuff.
still have
So
speed.
Hopefully they can get it worked in along with Chris Samuel. So we'll see what happens with the
And
Carolina Panthers.
what's another thing that they had to work on, just like the Giants had to work on, is the offensive line. They still don't have a solid offensive line. They have a run-blocking offensive line, but what was a good and encouraging move to me is in the draft. They drafted Greg Little, a tackle who could possibly start by week 1. And whether it be, I don't think it's going to be left tackle right now. You got Darrell Williams still up there, but right tackle is kind of up in the air for me. When you got a guy by the name of Tyler Moton as your right tackle, as your starting right tackle penciled in, they do have Trey Turner. They got Matt Paradis, which is a huge get for them at center from the Denver Broncos. So I think I would definitely look to see if Greg Little, and I think he really should, even though he's a second-round pick, I think he should be able to really compete for that right tackle position to make this offensive line even stronger. So that's something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, so let's move to the
New Orleans Saints?
New Orleans Saints. For some reason, this wouldn't pop up, but yeah, New Orleans Saints gets as far as to the championship game, and we don't see a Minneapolis miracle here, but we see another bad non-call, by the officials here, and they get kind of screwed out of a chance to go to the Super Bowl again. Maybe Drew Brees win another one, and that was kind of funny because when I saw that game, I was like, well, the Saints, I think, have the best chance to take on the Patriots and win here. So,
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, even though in my preseason like predictions when I had it all down,
Yep.
I had LA in the Super Bowl. So I almost had it. I was close, but just the Chargers couldn't get it done, and the Rams happened to sneak in there, but you could see that they still weren't exactly ready and got outcoached in that game. But the Saints still moving on. And still, as long as you almost like how Aaron Rodgers is, or even Tom Brady, as long as you still have that guy there at the helm, you have a chance. So, and Michael Thomas, he's looking for the big deal. Bam, becomes the $20 million man. I mean, so he's back again
Unreal.
here. Yeah, absolutely. The Asia's 10 Gid still
It's getting out of
it
hand.
done here.
I mean,
They
don't you
bring in
think-
an interesting guy?
Don't you think it's getting out of hand a little bit here? Now that the market for all these
Hey,
different
that's the thing with the
position
Saints,
players.
though. They find guys that, again, just, well, this will kind of plug in and work. Look at the Patriots have done it sometimes. You're like, oh, this guy, made that guy very successful and stuck with the team somehow.
I know about $20 million a year
Well,
for a wide receiver.
Oh,
bro.
for Michael Thomas?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought you were talking about having Ted Ginn still there.
I'm saying the
That's
market.
crazy.
The
Well,
market
yeah,
in
yeah.
general is getting
well,
out of
I know.
hand.
It is getting out of hand.
For every position. Quarterback, wide receiver,
Everybody wants
defensive
a
end.
piece of the pie. And I said this to Joe. Maybe I'll just say it real quick to get quickly off my shoulders again then. I talked about it with some guys earlier today, too. Again, I think when I played football when I was younger and stuff, and I'm throwing the ball around, you feel that the thing that you feel or you fantasize when you play is winning the championship. Like when you're dribbling the ball, shooting hoops, you count down, there's 3, 2, 1, shoot it up, the buzzer sounds in, it's good, and you win. You win the championship. Not, oh, I win, now give me my $20 million this season, every season. It's like, dude, that's not your dream. So when does it go from being your dream to be a champion and win the Super Bowl, being the biggest game of your life and your career, to I'll just be rich and richer than that rich guy over there,
Right.
How do you draw from that? That's the one thing that Tom Brady has always stayed on.
Yeah.
We said it a million times, but he knows that's what his focus is. His focus was to be greater. He loved Joe Montana. Joe Montana was his idol.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be better than Joe Montana. How do you do that? You win championships, obviously,
Right.
and you win games, and he's still rich still. It's not like he's hurting over there.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Because Stone Cold says so.
I mean, he's got it all figured out, and I just can't. It blows my mind with some of these guys.
Because here's the thing: is
raising the
this
bar
is-
on this.
And exactly right. Tom
losing my
Brady,
voice already out of
he
that.
averages $15 million a year, and he's a Super Bowl champion quarterback. They've won more Super Bowls in a short amount of span than any other team in NFL history. So you look at what he's done. He's okay with taking $15 million. He's getting paid good money, but he's not going to gouge the team because he wants the whole roster to be better around him. And it's just, it's kudos to Tom Brady. I mean, he's managed to do this, and he keeps doing it. And that's why the Patriots are where they're at.
Yeah, Hollywood Gaming chimes in again, and he says, I watched the top 10 running backs from last year on SportsCenter today, and Chris Carson was at number 5. I don't agree. Any thoughts?
Now, Chris Carson is one of he was one of the
He was one of
best-
the top ones last
he
year.
was
I
one of
think.
the he was one
I
of the
remember looking
best
at.
per rushing attempt. He averaged almost like 5 yards, just over 5 yards per carry. So in that aspect, yeah, he was pretty darn. He was like a stud. And he went down with an injury, and it seemed like everybody in Seattle went down with an injury in that backfield. But yeah, I mean
But what was
as far
funny
as
is with
top
that,
5, even
though,
top 10, like you can even check out our past episode. We've done our predictions for the upcoming 2019 season with that running back position, and what we think these running backs are going to end up by the end of the season, where they're going to rank. If you want to go ahead,
Yeah,
and
and
check
he
that
might
out.
have been top 5 from last year because they did have a lot of rushing yards, and that's the sneaky thing is when I was looking at the Seattle Seahawks last year when we were talking about them,
Right.
I'm like, these guys somehow are in the top 5, I think maybe close to number 1 or 2 in rushing. And
As
I
a
watched,
team, yeah.
as a team, and I've watched those games, and you saw at first where Russell Wilson was even talking to some of the guys like, "Dude, how are you not seeing this?" And then trying to instruct the running backs because they
Right.
were going down left and right. And for them, for the second half of the season to bounce back and become one of the highest rushing offenses, it blew my freaking mind because I was like, "Really? Was that really?" And then, yeah, it was all there. But as far if you want to rank him, as a top 5, yeah, you're out of your freaking mind. He's just not there.
Yeah,
He's a
not
certain
interesting.
type of a running back, and that's basically it. It was what you're getting out of him. Can it work in that offense? Sure, we saw it happen there.
And
But
just so
top
you know,
5,
no,
yeah, I don't think that's a ranking.
Yeah,
I think it's just how he did last year, which he
Right,
did do
right.
pretty well.
he did
last
really
year.
well for when he was playing.
But that's why he's not in our top 10, projected for this year though either. So I mean, he's not there. So
No
we're
easy
in
task.
agreement with you, Hollywood. All right. All right. Now getting back to the
New Orleans
Saints
Saints here.
here. They did add Jared Cook, so this is a nice extra weapon here for Drew Brees and stuff to get it going here. Now the key, I think, is this defense. All right, last year they came out of the gates a little struggling here. Those the 2 rookies from their previous year who lit up the world on fire started to struggle at first, but then they finally found their senses and settled it down and got back in and started playing well. But I think this is a key to this whole team, and you saw it too. It ended up losing them a game, by a chance, not making it. So we'll see what happens there. But what do you think about the Saints here in this offense and this defense?
Well, the Saints, I think, are going to be just fine. Especially on defense, I'm not really worried about it. Here's the thing: is that you got to worry about is the aging players on this defense. Guys like Demario Davis, who doesn't have a very long future with this team. Alex Anzalone, who is a very underrated linebacker, who's got tremendous coverage skills, who can go sideline to sideline, who can make the plays in the backfield and stop the running back. He's a guy that's got to remain healthy. He's been banged up this past year. He's been off and on the field. He's got to stay on the field. He's a big difference maker for this team. Along with another free agent ad is A.J. Klein from the Carolina Panthers, a guy that was kind of like under wraps. Everybody didn't really talk about him because Luke Kuechly is the star there. But A.J. Klein was quietly making a name for himself when he was in Carolina. He ends up going to the Saints. This is going to strengthen this linebacking core. And defensively, you look at this defensive line here. David, I don't know, Onyemata. He's a really good D tackle. He's a stud. Watch out for him. Cameron Jordan coming back yet again. He's a older vet, but he still produces. Malcolm Brown, which is an interesting signing from the Patriots. Patriots kind of let him walk. They didn't want to pay him, but I still think he's got a lot left in the tank here. He's a young D tackle who I think with the right team, which I think is the Saints here, with this 4-3 defense, I think he's going to excel. And Marcus Davenport, who's coming into now, it's all up to him. The Saints traded up very highly, and they were very high on this guy in the draft. A lot of teams were, but he was very raw coming out of the draft. They ended up trading way up for him and just saying, we're pushing all our chips into the center of the table. We're pushing them all in for you. You need to pan out. This is his second year. He needs to take a step forward. He needs to be able to do much like what Cameron Jordan is doing. I know that's a lot to ask, but that's why they moved up in the first round to get him. He's got to definitely pay off dividends now. Another thing, too, is the secondary. Like Jim was mentioning, previously, they were kind of struggling early on in the season, but they did make a couple of changes midway through the year. Eli Apple ends up getting traded to the Saints defense, and to my surprise,
he fit in, I guess.
he actually kind of fits this defense and what they ask of him, what his responsibilities are. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still not in the clear as far as penalties go. He still gets his fair share, but nonetheless, his playing style kind of fits in and ends up helping this Saints secondary kind of revitalize that cornerback spot. Ken Crawley, who was the go-to corner there 2 years ago, who was like kind of playing lights out, very big disappointment right now. And unless Ken Crawley steps his game up, he already lost his starting job with Eli Apple. Unless he kind of fights back and tries to make that push for that job again, I think Ken Crawley, he might not make this roster. He's been such a big disappointment up to now. This offseason, he needs to prove himself just to make the 53, and that is a critical position that they're going to have to keep an eye on. Von Bell's been a kind of like a disappointment here and there. He's made some plays. He's kind of been up and down through his short career, but he actually played really well with this defense and is kind of coming to his own. So he's going to definitely hold down that strong safety spot. Marcus Williams, a lot of people know Marcus Williams. He's a very young safety. He's a very good safety, but against the Vikings, I'm sorry. I mean, how do you miss the tackle there in the playoffs, which ended them knocking them out?
Yeah.
But he's gotten better as well. Another key safety that they got in the draft, who I am really high on, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from the Florida Gators. This kid, he can do everything. They got him in the 4th round, which I think is an absolute steal. If he can learn the playbook, watch out for him to perhaps push for some playing time as soon as this year. Marshawn Lattimore, lockdown corner. He struggled as well, but he kind of came into his own as the year went on. And what I like too is a nickelback is P.J. Williams. He's been on the team. He keeps getting these 1-year deals to stay. But there's a reason why he keeps getting 1-year deals, because they're prove-it deals every year, and they want to see more out of him. But he keeps playing well in this defense. So with this secondary returning, with this kind of like almost revamped defensive line, I don't think they lose much. And in fact, I think if they come together by midseason, they're going to be one of the tougher defenses to go up against.
All right, Hollywood Gaming brings up Eli Apple looks so much better on the Saints than the Giants. It's kind of disappointing as a Giants fan, he says. Yeah. I guess, but not really. Again, if he had the attitude that he had, and again, the way he was playing, see you later. I don't really care so much. You know, it's not like he's making that much of a bigger impact for the Saints that he would have added and helped our team that much better. I don't think that's a.
But here's the thing: is this is where it comes to scheme fit, and at the time, Eli Apple did not fit the scheme that was asked of him. He's not a shutdown corner where you can put out by himself and say, here, you take care of that guy man-to-man and don't have to worry about it. And that's what the Giants needed at the time. That's what the defense accounted for. That's why you saw Jack Rabbit, Janoris Jenkins on the side. He was kind of locked down, and the other side, Eli Apple struggled. So then, quite honestly, you have to move on from players like that. He's just not fitting in. And unfortunately for the Giants, he's fitting in elsewhere and playing a little bit better than what he was with New York. So going to the offense, though, for the Saints, for me, they like Jim was just saying, Michael Thomas, huge deal, number 1 paid wide receiver in NFL history. Now he's got to live up to it. Now you're getting paid a king's ransom to play wide receiver. You better, improve on your stats. It's going to be hard to do. What do you have, like 125 receptions for like 1,400 receiving yards and double-digit touchdowns? That's going to be tough to do. But now you're getting paid that big money. You're still going to be the go-to guy. You're still going to have to elevate your game and prove to the younger receivers underneath them, you got to get on my level. These guys that are younger, like Traquan Smith, who kind of showed flashes last year of being that number 2, but still held back by Ted Ginn, who, I don't know, what is he, 300 years old right now? The guy still is playing to this day. The guy still challenges people to foot races all the time. He says, I'll put my money on it, $20,000 to who can beat me on the track, which I think is insane. But he's still on this roster. Now, I wonder how much longer he has. Is he going to be able to hold off a speedster like Traquan Smith, who's a lot younger, who's cheaper? This year might be the year that Ted Ginn gets cut. I mean, especially with another year under Traquan Smith's role, and hopefully he can be able to play up and beat out Ted Ginn. But the offensive line as well, they've strengthened this offensive line. Now, their biggest thing was center. That's really what they needed to really and they took the best center in the draft, and Eric McCoy from Texas A&M, absolute stud, to go along with this very young offensive line and very strong offensive line to help provide protection for Drew Brees and running lanes, for the likes of Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
Kamara. I mean, this guy's going to be dangerous because now Mark Ingram's no longer there. I still think that they're going to somehow do a kind of like a committee type of deal, but Alvin Kamara is seen as a featured back for right now, and he can do everything. Maybe not block, but I've seen some pretty crazy blocks from Alvin Kamara. I've seen him take guys and their freaking heels are in the ceiling. But Alvin Kamara, a guy that's lethal at catching, lethal at running. It's going to be he's a difference maker for that backfield. So this offense, very explosive. The defense, I still think it's going to hold together tightly. So this team is they're going to make another push for the playoffs.
Hollywood Gaming says, I like Sam Beal. I'm very excited to see him this year on the Giants. I don't know. He's not like the big name, but I was looking forward to it. last year before he got hurt. Yes. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of mystery there. And if you look at the Giants' schedule, what people are not thinking about is it's fairly easy. They have a real good chance to be near 500, but if they can if their receivers stop dropping like flies, that would help. So in Eli's not thrown into, there's number 15, there's number this guy, I don't know his name. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully, they could survive after the first 4 games of the suspension of Golden Tate and keep the ship afloat and keep going.
Yeah,
so
I
who
think
knows?
they're
But there's
gonna
a lot of exciting players there for the Giants.
I think for the first 4 games,
it's a fresh new look.
I think they'll have a good game plan especially with the guys that are currently on the roster. Who I really like Cody Latimer, who's on this roster. I think he's going to make a difference for them, especially with with Golden Tate being suspended for the first 4 games. I think they're going to heavily utilize Evan Ingram. You got to use him. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
If he can stay healthy, I've heard a ton of praise from him at a training camp. He's almost been unblockable, they've said. I think it's just, everybody is going to get up. They're going to get praised because a lot of this is non-contact. A lot of it is very light physical work. It's basically you have to just be in stride with the guy to make any kind of a defensive play. But all in all, Sam Beal is an interesting prospect. He's very short, though. He does have a lot of speed, but he's got an uphill battle to go up against some of these corners that were drafted, like a DeAndre Baker, like I'm going to forget his name. He's a sleeper candidate for them. Coney or I don't have it in front of me, but guy from Notre Dame who just got drafted by the Giants. He's a guy that you got to keep your eyes on too. So I fully expect that the Giants are going to be okay. They're not going to be great, but they're going to be okay for those first 4 games without Tate.
He says Russell Shepard will be good. He knows the offense. Russell Shepard's a nice little spot there to get there. So we'll see. You're going to see these guys play now, so we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how bad that broken thumb is for Sterling Shepard, see when he can make it back. So
yeah, they're not going to rush him back.
Yeah.
They already know what they have in Sterling Shepard, so just make sure he is healthy before you bring him back.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the biggest thing.
All right, now moving back to the NFC South, the last team we got here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now they're under Bruce Arians, and they've got
new coaching staff.
You have Todd Bowles there as well, too. And Byron Leftwich as the offensive coordinator. So you're going to see a little bit of a different team here, and hopefully the best version of Jameis Winston that you've kind of seen, because he's on a make it or break it year here, and what better coach to have here than Bruce Arians, who's kind of known, who's been working with him since he was a child, and he still has some good weapons here. Yes, they lose Deshaun Jackson, but he never used them before. You've got the young Chris Godwin there, too. Mike Evans, always a go-to. And now they got to still focus on getting O.J. Howard involved here, along with Cameron Brate, let's get these tight ends going. The one knock they always had was Peyton Barber. Are they going to get this running game going? That running game has been non-existent for a long time, so hopefully they can get it going there with them, and Ronald Jones also possibly getting in there. They drafted Devin White, which we knew that was going to be the pick right there for the first round at inside linebacker. It's a great mix because they also bring in, as an unrestricted free agent, Deion Buchanan now too. So I like this bring up the people that they bring in here, because the one thing you did have problem with was the defense last year too. Mainly in secondary. Yep. So they try and attack that a little bit there, add some extra linebackers too. They let go of Gerald McCoy and they get Ndamukong Suh, so I don't know what you're grabbing there, so maybe he can make it work. But again, he was non-existent last year until the playoffs, or even the Super Bowl started to make some plays finally, but by then it's too little too late. The one thing I think is interesting here is Vita V. Why is he so far back on the depth chart here, nose tackle? Guy who is highly touted, last year for the draft, ended up getting injured. You didn't see him at all. And then now he's just dropped off the face of the planet. So, this team, whole new vamped here, and what I like is they attack their weaknesses for the most part. They also draft Mike Edwards here at safety, so they attack their weaknesses there, and it's basically, I think it's a make or break. Jameis Winston, this is it, bro. You got to make it happen here, and it could be almost like a trap for him. If he plays well, he's going to want that extension now. So Are you going to give it to him? I don't know, because you also got Tua and you've got Trevor Lawrence that are going to be coming out now.
No,
The-
Dexter Lawrence
right?
will not be out,
No.
or
You
Trevor
know,
Lawrence.
he's got
will
one more
be.
year.
No, he won't even
So-
be eligible yet.
Oh well, there we go. But you got these quarterbacks
Mind
that
you,
could
he's
possibly
only
coming
he
out.
was a freshman last year,
That's
so
right.
he's got
That's right.
two
He's
more
young. He's
years
got 2 more years.
until he'll be
So
eligible.
there could be some bait there. They go just Herbert from Oregon then.
Abear, yeah.
So there
Justin
you go.
Herbert.
So they could be guys dangling out there. So do we give it to Jameis Winston? You saw how it worked out for was it freaking Blake Bortles?
Blake Bortles, yeah.
They said, well, he made us to this, the playoffs, AFC Championship game.
The only thing
we're
I'll
going to
say-
extend him for this year.
Yeah, but the only thing I'll say is that the Jacksonville Jaguars made it a team-friendly deal. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't pay him a ton of money. They paid him $15 million a year for 3 years, but it was a contract structure so they could get out of it after one and not have any.
And
crazy
what I like
backlash.
too is what I'm hearing out of camp is they're focusing on getting Jameis Winston to check down more, not making those dumb on the back of his throws, just launch it up there and throw those dumb interceptions that he does. But the one thing he needs to focus on too as well for me, ball control. Too many strip sacks and
100%.
fumbles last year. Needs to adjust it. So we'll see what goes forward here. What about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Joe?
You know, and here's the thing: is you mentioned that they're actually correcting a lot of flaws that Jameis Winston had in the recent past. Is Bruce Arians is a no holds barred type of coach. He's a guy that's not going to hold back. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He demands professionalism. He demands hard work and accountability. And that goes along with the whole coaching staff. You know, they brought in, like Jim was saying earlier, Todd Bowles. Well, just so you know, Todd Bowles may not be a great head coach. He's actually pretty terrible. But when it comes to being a defensive coordinator, he's one of those guys that you definitely want on your staff, a guy that's kind of like a defensive guru, a guy that is going to escalate this defense in play and on the field production. That's something to be worried about. And they also bring over, which was interesting to me too, is as an offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich, who's been in many of the talks around the league of possibly being a new head coach. And it happens for the last 2 to 3 years where he's kind of been in that talk, and no one really brings him in. They've brought him in for interviews, but that's as far as it goes. I look for Byron Leftwich perhaps after this year will get a head coaching job next season. So that's something to keep an eye on. But overall, they've assembled a great coaching staff, a veteran type of coaching staff who's going to demand results. And Jameis Winston has no choice but to improve. Under Bruce Arians, he's had a history with Jameis going back to the college days. He thinks he can get the best out of Jameis Winston, and it sounds like he's just ingraining Bruce's intelligence offensively into Jameis Winston to become a better quarterback all in all. Don't take the deep bombs when plays break down. Don't force the ball into double coverage. Be smart. If you don't see it, it's not there, check it down. Do not create a turnover. So I think it may work out better for Winston, but here's the thing is Tampa Bay is going to have a crucial decision. Like Jim was just saying, they're going to make a decision. Do they extend a contract with Winston after this year? Or do they make a decision and say, you know what? I think we got to go in a different direction. That's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be based on Winston's performance. And who knows? He could dupe everybody and say he has one good year, and they're like, oh, this is a Jameis we drafted. Let's sign him to a long-term deal and have struggles later on.
Get caught in it.
So that's going to be concerning.
Hollywood Gamer,
got?
sorry, just real quick. He just threw it in here. He says they don't got Fitzmagic anymore, so he's got to step up. Yeah, no more Fitz.
Yeah.
What's funny is now they've not reunited, but united the Fitzmagics together in Miami, though. So
That's right.
you've got both Fitzmagics together. It's amazing there.
So
but yeah,
now-
that's no bad thing. Let me just say it real quick. That could be bad too, because now he doesn't have any of that pressure there. Does he get lazy on it? Because what you got? You got Ryan. What you got? Blaine Gabbert behind you.
Blaine
That might
Gabbert.
take
Now
it,
here-
and Ryan Griffin maybe.
Here's the
Blaine
thing.
Gabbert has done well for the 49ers at times.
Right.
But
He can play.
He
He's
can.
bottom line. He's a good quarterback. I mean, if you got him as a backup quarterback, he could easily start for this team.
Yeah,
it's
well, I can
it's
see
no
that.
joke. If Blaine Gabbert ends up outplaying Jameis Winston,
imagine that.
I'm just saying. Then you're going to look for Winston to be trade bait. He's going to be on the trade block for the first 8 weeks, and hopefully they can pull off a deal. Who knows? But Blaine Gabbert's no joke. I think he could take over this offense, and he could be a very viable quarterback for this team. Just a stopgap type of guy because obviously he's getting older as well. But nonetheless, he could definitely produce for this team. A big thing for me, though, this past offseason for them was their offensive line woes. Lack of protection, lack of creating running lanes, much like you were just saying. They were struggling running the ball, and they have been. Donovan Smith gets a new deal to stay at left tackle. Ali Marpet returns healthy. That was a big loss there. Center has been an Achilles heel for this Tampa Bay team for quite some time. They end up nabbing through free agency Ryan Jensen from the Baltimore Ravens, a very nasty type center, a guy that's going to ground and pound you and work and lean on you until you give up. So that was a big get for them. Alex Kappa, a draft pick for this team that they're hoping pans out and pays off big dividends for them. DeMar Dotson, who's been there, a vet. So and they also added from Earl Watford as depth piece for them, which I think is a nice thing. And Caleb Benenoch, also a nice addition for them to develop and get better. So this offensive line, if it improves like it looks like on paper, this offense is going to be tough to deal with. Now, Peyton Barber out of Tampa, what we're hearing is Peyton Barber, it's his job to lose at the starting running back position. A guy that I look to really push him is none other than Ronald Jones II, who was a draft pick 2 years ago in the second round, who they have high hopes for. They really hope. The biggest problem with him is blocking, and I think he's got to develop that game a little bit more. He's got to develop his body and get ready for this season. He has to push. He has to make a push now to get this job, and who knows? I think by the end of training camp, we might see a new running back in the backfield for them. And I wanted to touch on the defense real quick. This is another defense that's making another transformation from 4-3 to 3-4. That's something to bring up as well. That's why Sue was brought in, because as of right now, you have Bo Allen, who they signed in free agency, who to me is a very underrated D tackle who came from the Eagles. Ndamukong Suh at end, Bo Allen at nose tackle, and William Golston right now locked in. Now, here's the interesting part is like you brought up is why is Vita V so low on the depth chart? Because to me, a high first-round pick. Now, is it because of injury concerns? Maybe that's why he's lower on the depth chart. Is right now he's a little banged up. He can't go. So don't read too much into the depth charts right now because coaches like to play games too. But in the end, a healthy Vita V, I think he absolutely has to start. And and you could easily put him at that DN spot because for a big guy, one of the most athletic big dudes you'll ever see. So watch for him to kind of climb up the depth chart by the end of the season. And Jim brought up a few guys. We already saw Devin White. Carl Nassib. Carl Nassib is an interesting pass rusher for me. He left the Cleveland Browns. He ends up signing with Tampa. I think he's going to do some damage this year. I think he's going to really kind of take a big step forward for them. Devin White, I mean, this kid, me and Jim were both super high on this guy. It didn't matter what team took him. He's going to be a difference maker at middle linebacker for them. Deion Buchanan, they bring in to kind of play that almost like a unique position at linebacker, which for a smaller stature guy, he's played it well for Arizona. He can play safety, he can play linebacker, so that'll be interesting to see where they move him around all the time. Noah Spence, he's got to pick it up. He's been a guy who's been highly touted. He's got to make a big difference. And a very, very young secondary, and they got a couple of sleepers on this team to watch out for, so keep your eyes on them as well. So this Tampa Bay team could make a big turnaround after one offseason with a new coaching staff. Maybe they do make a push. I don't know if they'll have enough to make it to win the division, but I think they're going to have some competitive games and scare some people.
All right, so the NFC South, we kind of went through them, and we tried to do a shorter review, but we were trying to nail it down here. But we talked about them now, so now we're going to give you our prediction or picks or how we think the division is going to line up. Joe, let's start off with yours first.
There you have it. We got the New Orleans Saints winning the division. And here's the thing that I kind of struggled with is between the Saints and the Falcons. The Falcons, I'm worried about the offensive line. There's a little bit of a question mark now with how well the rookies are going to develop. I think Chris Lindstrom will be fine at guard. But now with McGarry missing all of training camp, There's got to be some concern for that tackle spot. When he comes back, he's got to play major catch-up. That's why the Atlanta Falcons slipped to second for me. The Saints, they're still got a good roster. The Carolina Panthers, they dropped to third for me, much because of Cam Newton. I'm not really high on him. There's been some changes on that defense. We don't know how they're going to react to that new 3-4 scheme, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to make big strides here. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the only reason why I have them dead last is because, again, completely new coaching staff. It's a new offense. It's a new defense. There's a lot going on there. It depends how fast these players can develop it and learn the playbooks and establish chemistry. So I got them, just getting underneath there at the 4th spot at last.
All right, here now we're going to go to my NFC South picks, and I think it's the same as Joe's. I think here it is. Here we go. Yes, it is. It's the New Orleans Saints again. This is a tough division. I think
Very tough.
All these teams. Let
Very
me tell you
tough.
this way.
Yeah.
All these teams are going to play better than they did last year. Atlanta, they just got struck with injuries. Carolina, when they're on a big winning streak, and everybody's like, "Watch out." And then you could see, that Cam Newton was nursing an injury, and finally gets out. Then he realized it's so bad he needs surgery on that shoulder and everything. So, boom, that ruined everything
And that's
for them.
the problem, too, that I have is, I think they rushed Cam Newton back too early. And even if Cam wanted to come back really bad, you got to stop. You got to make sure he's 100%.
Look what they did with Andrew Luck. You didn't know. You didn't hear if he was ever throwing. You weren't sure what was going on. And they were keeping it locked down, and it's like, still not there, still not there, still not there.
Yeah.
Well, look how it turned out for them last year. And so here we go. The Saints, I've got the Atlanta Falcons going to play them better, and they might even bump some of those other teams out of the playoffs that were there last year
they
to
could.
jump in here under Dirk Cutter here on the offense. So the Panthers, they're going to make a run, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to be improved, but I think there's going to be some bumps there. And at the end of the season, it's going to be interesting on what they do with
that it is.
Jameis Winston.
Definitely.
But Hollywood Gaiman, he chimes in here and says, going back to Jacksonville, how do you think Nick Foles would do there? So we're covering the NFC and AFC South. So I'm going to jump right to the Jacksonville Jaguars on the AFC South part here. And so how do you think Nick Foles? I think it's an improvement. I think he'll do well. You've got great coaching there, plus just the establishment with Tom Coughlin there. I just like what they're doing. It's interesting because they also just didn't they just bring in a running back here for Leonard Fournette that was going to help out with Leonard Fournette. It's not on the depth chart yet, but I think they just brought somebody in. I can't remember who the hell it was. But anyways,
yeah, they brought in Rock Thomas, but he's not. He's going to have to learn a lot. He's got to learn the playbook first and foremost before he even has a shot to even come close to getting. He's got to fight to get on this team. Basically, you have Benny Cunningham. So a lot of you remember him from the Bears. A lot of you remember him from his time with the Rams. He's fighting to get on this roster. There's a lot of guys fighting to get on this roster, especially at the running back position. It's up for grabs because, let's face it, Carlos Hyde left in free agency. He's gone. A lot of guys that were there, TJ Yeldon, who was almost like a mainstay for this Jacksonville Jaguars, he ends up leaving in free agency. Now, what do you have? They end up picking up Alfred Blue from Houston to try to cushion that blow. They did draft in the 5th round Raquel Armstead, who... He any 5th round pick has got an uphill battle, so let's see what he can do throughout training camp. But as of right now, it's basically Leonard Fournette or bust. The guy's got to stay healthy, and I know the Jacksonville Jaguars have their own fair share of frustration with him as well.
Here I'll just chime in here with Hollywood.
What's Hollywood
quick
got?
while he's talking about going back to what Joe said, but a different quarterback. Do you think Carson Wentz will get lazy because he doesn't have Foles there to take his spot anymore? I don't think so, because the way Carson Wentz plays, he plays with intensity.
Yep.
He is, that's he just wants to win. He plays, gives it all, lays it all out there on the field. I don't think he's going to be lazy at all.
No.
He's fighting this injury that he was been dealing with. Now he's 100% healthy. So we are, like some people have said, you're going to see the best of him right there. I don't think he's going to get lazy. I think you just really got to make sure that he is 100%, and it's not going to be something that happens to be reoccurring, like if he gets popped in the same place, like it re-injures the same area. And so just
That's it.
help your offensive line to keep him healthy and tell him to slide. All right? I know you want the touchdown, but slide.
But here's the thing. Bottom line, this offensive line was badgered in terms of injuries last year. So the protection did dive down, and Carson Wentz ended up getting injured because of how bad the offensive play was after injuries. The other thing about too is Wentz is a very hard worker. He's not a guy that's lazy. You have to worry about work ethic. He puts in a lot of work in the off season, right up into training camp, through training camp. So he's not a guy you have to worry about in that aspect. He knows that everybody's counting on him. He knows that the receivers have a great chemistry with him, that they're counting on him, that the offensive line has trust in him. This offense, Doug Peterson, is all in on Carson Wentz. He knows that he has a lot of guys on his back and that he has to constantly prove himself, especially now, because he's been hit with the injury bug a couple times now through his young career. Now it's time to step up. Now it's time to take care of what you got to take care of. Protect your body, get it right, get out there, play hard, and just what Jim said, you have to slide, you have to run out of bounds, do whatever you have to do. Do not get hit. Do not sustain those big hits. Even if you're in the pocket and it doesn't seem like you can go anywhere, just get down. Just take the sack. Be done. So that in the end, Wentz, we have no worries about him playing out and holding on to that job and playing well for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now this team has always been behind Leonard Fournette. That's what their deal is. They run first. He got injured last year. Like you said, T.J. Yeldon had to come in and numerous backs to help keep this train going. But this is going to be interesting. I think finally, like you talk about how is Nick Foles going to do, I think he's going to do great. They had made the improvements on the offensive line. Leonard Fournette, as long as he stays healthy, he can lead this team in running. But you also got Alfred Blue back there, too, which I like as a nice little piece to throw in and split some time.
He's an underrated
But we finally get to see maybe what these weapons are, because look at some of these guys. They're not big household names, but Keelan Cole, you've seen the potential that he's had, and we've been high on this guy, and I think we're just going to keep riding it.
Pounding the table for him.
Pounding the table until you finally see what we're seeing here. But Keelan Cole, I think, is going to be a nice spot here. And they even got Chris Conley, who is liked very much in Kansas City, and Terrell Pryor finds a spot here on this team, too. He's not going to be a major part of this. He's not asked to be called one of these guys.
Never know.
But Day Westbrook, Marquise Lee, these are nice little guys to have around, and you're finally going to see, I think, some of these guys step up and with the potential that his offense finally had but just never got there because of Blake Bortles holding them down. Right. Now, the defense has always been really good for this team, and even despite some of the losses that they had last year and stuff like that, it was a bend and then I finally broke. You can't. You got to, when your offense is doing so badly and you're sitting there on defense constantly going out. You see them walking off after 3 and out. You're like, all right, bro, thanks for the help. And I didn't get a rest yet, but thanks. Here I go. And Jalen Ramsey, I mean, he played well still, but again, for all that smack talk, did he really, prove what he was last year? I think he took a tick down. And they've unloaded some of the guys there, but they still have Miles Jack there as well. They go and draft Quincy Williams here on the 3rd round. That was a nice pickup here for the linebacker position. Calais Campbell aging a bit, but you've also got Marcel Darius still there, and Ngakoue. Still, the defense is solid here for this team. So now, like I said, I think you're finally going to get a chance to see what this team can do. And for me, at least, I see them going a little farther, definitely than they did last year, but see them going some places here this season.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those interesting teams to watch, and because much of the reason because Nick Foles is now the quarterback, a guy that we've seen have huge success, who was a Super Bowl MVP for the Eagles, and now he's coming to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is a very young wide receiving core who we are very high on, a lot of these players who we think they're going to make a difference with Nick Foles at the helm. And another reason why is this offensive line is pretty stout. This is one of the probably better offensive lines in this league, and it doesn't really get credit for it, but they are dangerous. I mean, they will move you out of the way. Cam Robinson was injured. He was the left tackle. Andrew Norwell was banged up last year. He was the left guard, just to paint a picture for you guys. And Brandon Linder, also the center, was banged up last year. So there you go. Your whole left side of the line and your center's gone. A.J. Cann, really stout right guard for them. Cedric Agabui is an interesting free agent signing there for them. And I hope that he pays dividends for them. But here's the interesting thing is in the second round, they were able to nab a first-round talent at offensive tackle in Juwan Taylor, a guy that I think if he can get healthy, if he can get a clean bill of health from his knees, because that was a medical concern coming out of college, if he gets a clean bill of health, I think he easily takes over that right tackle spot, making this offensive line one of the best easily. But all those guys that I mentioned, those 4 offensive linemen, now healthy. And when they're healthy, they are one of the better offensive lines to deal with. I think that wholeheartedly. And like Jim was saying before, it's Fournette or bust. He's got to stay healthy this year to really – this team is a run-first team, this offense. That's what it's about. It's built on. And if he can stay healthy, along with Nick Foles being able to break up, he won't even have to run that much because with Foles there, he'll be able to deliver passes. They might even be more of a balanced offense that you'll see this season. And defensively – yeah, they usually have a pretty stout defense. They're missing a couple of people. Miles Jack is still there. Quincy Williams, who he mentioned earlier, unfortunately has sustained an injury recently. And out of all reports out of Jacksonville, he was lighting it up in training camp. He caught on to the defensive playbook very quickly and started making huge plays. I know it's only training camp, it's light pads and all that, but nonetheless, he was getting the game, his mindset right, and he was definitely executing on plays. Here's the thing that's interesting about this new defensive look is they still have Calais Campbell. They did pick up Marcel Darius last year. He's going to end up being the starter now, and with Aubrey Jones coming in, filling in there, Yannick Ngakoue is a holdout right now, and I think they got to get it. They just got to get a deal done because he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. You got to keep him there. You got to keep this defensive line secure, at least for this year, because we've already seen next year they're $14 million over the cap.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to unload some guys like a Campbell, maybe even a Jalen Ramsey midway through the year.
Yeah,
they
we
might
talked
trade
about
him.
that a few weeks ago.
And with Quincy Williams out, he will return probably week 1, maybe week 2 at the latest. But Josh Allen was a nice draft pick for them, a high draft pick in the first round, who can play that defensive end role if they need to, or he could play linebacker because they are missing one of their gems at linebacker in Telvin Smith. He's kind of like what did he do? He took the year off. He's like, I got some personal issues. I won't be playing. I think it's the first time I've ever seen a player do that, to be able to kind of take himself out of the season. But I'd watch out for Josh Allen. They could potentially move him to that linebacker spot to strengthen that up. And that secondary, they've gone through a little bit of change. A.J. Bouye is still there. Ramsey obviously still there. But Gerard Wilson is a new face to that free safety spot. Ronnie Harrison, I think, is going to fit in well with that team. So overall, still think they're going to be good. I think with Nick Foles, it makes them a more dangerous team.
All right, Hollywood Gameman chimes in and says, if Jacksonville stays healthy, it's a scary team offensively and defensively. He's going to switch it up here. And he says he's got a fantasy team. This is a crazy question here, Joe.
All right, what do we got?
All right, okay, so he's got fantasy trades already somehow. You already did your
Wait a
fantasy
second.
draft? Like, what the hell's going on here? Is this a
That's
keeper
right.
league? And
Last
they're trading
week,
your keepers?
You weren't here for this,
Yeah.
and I was like frantically because you weren't here. You know, I was very
Well,
upset.
I know a lot of people were,
but
trust me, they were asking if I was okay.
But anyway,
I was on a beach.
Hollywood did mention that that he did do his draft recently last week, and said that he took Melvin Gordon because he was listening to our show, and
Yeah.
he said, he knows that I was high on Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
We had him in our top
Yep.
5 and all that.
Yeah.
Well, he takes him, and he's like, "Oh, well, is the contract going to get done?" And we're like, "Don't worry about it. It will get done."
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he's already have his fantasy team.
This is funny because before you get to this question,
Okay.
Cody Cook, one of our know-it-alls, threw it out there. He's got a
Oh, yeah.
crazy team, right?
Okay.
And he's got to kind of pick a guy too or whatever or keep a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He has Melvin Gordon and Zeke.
Yeah.
Not sure which he should keep if he was going to or just say forget it on both. I said, well, your best bet is Melvin Gordon because money-wise, he's not ready to hold out that long, so he'll come back.
Yeah.
But the one thing is he's only had one major season where he was, healthy all the way. And even last year, one of his better seasons, still got injured, only played like 10 games. So that's the one thing you're worried about, because will you still need to go get another running back to fill in for him because he has an injury? Zeke,
Absolutely.
though, he is a big performer fantasy-wise and, just regular NFL stats. That's tough. So, but to be stuck with both those guys as well, now he is offered a trade.
Already.
So he's got a fantasy trade. It's Melvin Gordon on his team.
Okay.
Somebody who has Zeke wants to trade for Melvin Gordon.
Ooh.
Both are holding out, so he doesn't know what to do.
I
But
see.
Let me tell you one thing. Yeah, how does it feel, or what does it mean when somebody has Zeke and now they're coming to you who wants Melvin Gordon?
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because here, all in all, Zeke, if you can get Zeke for Melvin Gordon, it's a
solid deal.
It's a slam dunk all day long.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I think this person is offering Zeke for Melvin Gordon, now maybe they don't pay attention too much about the NFL, because technically they're both holding out.
Yeah.
Do I believe Melvin Gordon will be back? I think both of them are going to be back. I don't think this thing is going to go too far, even close to week one. You could almost see that a week prior to the season starting, if Zeke isn't already in with the Dallas Cowboys, they're going to do something or work something out to where he just reports anyway, because money talks.
Yeah.
And when week one comes, that's game checks, baby.
Yeah.
That's game checks. And these vets, these guys that are claiming for money. Here's the other thing to remember too. Gordon is on the last year of his deal. Zeke has 2 more years left on his deal, plus a team fifth-year option because he was a first-round draft pick. So technically he has 3 years left, because we all know the Cowboys are going to use that fifth round. So I think it's too early for Zeke to ask for money right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he's
definitely
one of the best.
Especially when they're trying to pay the quarterback. You got
In the
Amari
end-
Cooper on their last year, too.
Yeah, in the end, I just see both of these guys reporting. Maybe Gordon gets a deal done before Zeke, but in the end, I think both these guys are too important. They're going to show up for the game checks, bottom line.
So he wants to
but
play. What would you do? Would you go for it?
I mean, you're running
Like
a
I
risk.
said, it's a good-
Here's the thing: is you're running a risk either way.
Yeah.
But you don't win the championship without doing some risks. Whether that be a free agent pickup, whether it be cutting someone, trading someone. So, you know what? If you're going to get Zeke for straight up, I mean, as long as it's straight up, if it's straight up for Melvin Gordon for Zeke, I would pull the trigger. I would go and get Zeke. If that was my team, I would definitely do it, because the return on the fantasy points and everything for Zeke, because they run heavy.
Also, what's your
backbone
I would want
of
to
that
know
offense?
what's your other running back depth? What's the other
Yeah,
running back depth?
that's
you have?
also key,
if
too.
you can go without, like all of a sudden say Zeke is even holding out for the
Right.
first
couple
2 weeks,
couple weeks, yeah.
or something, and you
Yeah.
can hold off a little bit here or go. I don't know how your fantasy has stepped up, or with flex and stuff, but if you go 1 running back and then 3 wide receivers or whatever, if you got wide receiver depth, you can make it work with another starter.
Let me ask you this: is it a PPR or standard league?
Yeah, there you go.
And then also in that same answer that you give us, also tell us your depth for running backs.
Yeah.
That will
Just
actually give us
your
more
whole
clarification.
lineup, whatever, so we can see everybody. I mean, see what you got. We can grade your team and see
But
what you got going for it. But straight up, like you said, I mean, yeah, if you could say, if I told you I could give you Melvin Gordon for Zeke, straight up right now, who's the better running back? Zeke is obviously the better running
Absolutely.
back. And he stays healthy. He doesn't get injured. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, I'll tell you there. Now you're just wondering how long is he going to hold out.
But that's the thing. It's
But-
a risk either way,
Yeah.
because whether you
But if
keep
you've
Gordon,
got somebody there to hold it down, if he does, you're
right.
good.
I mean,
And if he doesn't, sorry to cut you off again, but if he doesn't hold out and he's there, now you've got Zeke plus that other guy on it. Now you're looking at a great team too. So I
Right,
mean,
right.
you're setting yourself up nice.
okay. So I got fantasy trade. It's
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
you said right there. So he didn't get another comment in
Okay.
here. So until he comes back with that one, how about we let's move on to the Houston Texans, all right, Joe, with this get this thing moving here. The Texans, they made it to the playoffs and then didn't do so hot. They ran into
to
a
put it simply.
Yeah, and then it ran into a brick wall here. Jadeveon Clowney, he was one of those guys, too, that was like, I might hold out this and this, and you franchise tag me or whatever. And he ended up reporting finally, right, Joe?
Next, he's going to report third week in training camp.
There you go. All right, so now here to come to Houston Texans. A lot of people hide them. We have a lot of Houston Texans fans that are part of our group.
That's right.
And chime in here and there too as well. So this is an interesting look here on this team. You've got Will Fuller here coming back. DeAndre Hopkins, we thought is going to be like our number one projected wide receiver next season. So look to see that coming up. And Kiki QT, that's Joe's favorite guy right there. He's got the song for him as well.
He's awesome.
This team kind of relies on health for me, the health of Deshaun Watson. I mean, is he going to be able to stay healthy throughout the whole season? Are they going to be able to make the throws that he needs to make to go further into playoffs? And how's his defense also going to hold up? You've had times at this defense where J.J. Watt and Merciless were out injured. Jadeveon Clowney had to try to hold it down his own a little bit, and he's shown that he's not even that guy. For him, I see it. This is maybe my just own opinion. J.J. Watt, because they're trying to cover him so much, even plays that he makes, leaves it open for Jadeveon Clowney to sneak in, and he makes some moves and plays off of what J.J. Watt's doing. That's where a lot of his successful plays, I think, end up. And if you look at the production, the monies that he's looking for, J.J. Watt's got him slam dunk. You ain't getting this. All right, so the dude Jonathan Joseph is still there. I mean, it's just crazy what they have here. Bradley Roby in the back, Justin Reed, Shashawn Gibson. I still like this defense here. This is going to be a good defense for the team, but the teams that they're playing now in this division have all stepped up now. Now we're seeing a different Jacksonville team. We get to see another year now of the Tennessee Titans, and what are they going to do under Mike Vrabel? You know, they've got a new offensive coordinator now, though, so there's definitely question marks there, and the surging Colts to deal with. And we saw what the Colts were able to do, too. So this is a whole different scheme here, and it's going to be interesting to see what the Houston Texans can do, and if they can stay healthy, how far will they be able to make it? They're kind of looking to me like what you see or you used to saw with Tony Romo's Cowboys, kind of make it there but can't pull off a playoff win.
Right. Hollywood just chimed in.
There you go. PPR
it's
league.
A PPR league, and I got
Darius Guice.
And Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
And Peyton Barber. For running backs.
That's rough, but Kenyon Drake I like the most in that one.
And wait a second. And Peterson is a free agent in mine, so if he does better, I could always get. Okay, here's what I'm going to tell you right now. If that's Adrian Peterson, go and pick him up right now, because as of all reports out of Washington, it looks like AP is going to be the starter, and Guice and company are going to be rotating in. So, and you look at what he did last year. I thought he was kind of getting long in the tooth, and he was going to be done. He actually went over 1,000 yards rushing on a one-dimensional offense. So. I'm just saying they're going to look to him and use him heavily. So I would pick up Peterson right now if you can.
I'd say pull the trigger on the trade then and go get Adrian Peterson. Get Adrian Peterson and then pull the trigger on the trade.
Well, Peterson's a free agent.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. He can just pick him up, add him, and then make the trade. Now you potentially have Zeke and AP right there as your two starters. I mean, that's nice.
I would still hold on to Darius Guice, though, just because of insurance reasons. And if you have to cut someone, like, again, we don't know your whole roster, but if you had to cut a running back,
it's tough because Peyton Barber should be the starter. Kenyon Drake is definitely though, so I don't think
to be honest. To be completely honest, with Tampa Bay's woes at running the ball, and they usually pass more, it's going to be different with this coaching staff. We don't really know how the offense is going to be run, but Peyton Barber, you could technically just cut him because of the unknown. That he may be good or may not be good. So and then I would add Peterson right away. I would definitely do that. Kenyon Drake, he's so far projected to be the starter, and he's also a good guy for PPR because he will catch out of the backfield and run as well. So I would do that in a heartbeat, and I would pull the trigger on getting Zeke because here's the thing: it's still a risk no matter what you do. If you stay with Gordon or if you get Zeke, it's still a risk depending who gets there, who reports to their team first. In the end, they're not going anywhere. They're both going to report. It's just a matter of when.
Yep.
So I would do it.
I'd rather have the other guy, the workhorse. You gotta
absolutely.
Yep. That's what I do there. So what do
Get
you
her
think
done.
about the Houston
Anyway,
Texans, Joe?
going back to the
let's
Houston,
get back to the
Yeah,
Texans
I'm
here.
sorry, I get sidetracked.
Let's finish this segment.
I love
for
fantasy.
Christ's sake.
But anyway, real quickly, defensively, this is a defense that's built on pass rush. They're not the best at pass defense. We know that they made some small improvements, adding to Sean Gibson from Jacksonville. Justin Reed is now the free safety for them. So, and they did lose Tyrann Mathieu, remember. So, without Matthew there, I think that's a huge loss. I think they're trying to cushion the blow here, but it's not going to be the same. Bradley Roby, they've added at corner from Denver. I was never high on this guy coming out of Ohio State. I'm still not high on him now. I think he's going to be a weak player for them. Bobby Calhoun, I think is going to be a stud. Could end up being the starter for them. Aaron Colvin, who's returning player. I think he's got to push Jonathan Joseph. I mean, don't you? The guy's like 35, 36 years old, and he's still playing corner. Still a good player, but I think he's still slowing up a little bit more. And all in all, you see J.J. Watt. DJ Reader's a great nose tackle. And this is it's interesting because, like Jim was mentioning before, Jadeveon Clowney, he's going to report right before the season starts, basically, after the third preseason game. And what does that tell you? Game checks. He's going to report because money's coming up. So you could see him either they're going to trade him before week 8, or he is going to be a free agent by next season, which is absolutely crazy. But J.J. Watt, nonetheless, Whitney Merciless, both returning healthy, mind you. And with this linebacking core that they have back yet again, I think the defense is going to be really good against the run, really good at getting to the quarterback, but I think much of the same. I think they might struggle a little bit in pass defense, and that'll still remain a weakness for them. And offensively, here's the thing: Deshaun Watson, he's got it again. He's a very big aspect of this offense, this big aspect of this team. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to take another step forward, and the big Achilles heel for the Houston is offensive line play. They've added some pieces: Zach Fulton, Chantrell Henderson, Matt Khalil from the Panthers. Hopefully that's going to be enough to create some protection for him. But we all know of the receivers that he's got: Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, and watch out for Vincent Smith. I think he's going to be kind of like a sleeper candidate this year, who's going to, along with Kiki Kuti, help propel this offense as well. And how long is Lamar Miller really going to be playing for? I mean, this guy just keeps going.
Yeah,
too.
he just keeps going for him.
But again, I think it's predicated on the offensive line play. If they're able to protect, I think their offense will go far. I think this team will go a little farther. If not, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. But all in all, they're still going to be a good overall team.
All right, there you go. That's the Houston Texans. Hollywood Gaming, he just brought us his wide receivers.
What?
Oh, my gosh, dude. Does anybody know how to draft in your league? Look what he has now.
Wait a
All right,
second.
not only did he...
Wait,
Look
what?
at the wide receivers he has. All right, here we go. His running backs, he can trade Melvin Gordon for Zeke. He's got Darius Guice, Kenyon Drake, Peyton Barber, all right, and he's going to pick up Adrian Peterson here. Wide receivers are Julio Jones, Adam Thielen, Larry Fitz, and he has George Kittle. Are you freaking out of your...
Championship.
What?
That's all I gotta say is championship. Because here's the thing:
I don't get this.
Julio Jones
So it's like-
is a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy every single year. You also got the best fantasy receiver last year in terms of catches and yards and touchdowns is Adam Thielen, number 1 fantasy wide receiver last year. So now you got potentially 2 number 1s. You got Larry Fitz, who I think is going to be a sleeper this year with Kyler Murray and company. I think he's going to be heavily relied upon as usual. So he's going to have a lot of catches, maybe even a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. And George Kittle, just so you know, Hollywood, don't know if you tuned in on our episode before, but for our top 10 projected tight ends, we have George Kittle at number 1 this year. And that could be very well easily for fantasy as well, as long as Jimmy G stays healthy.
Yeah.
So-
but still even not.
But still, even then, he still
he
produces.
was able to
so.
produce, so, I mean...
It's gonna be legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, dude.
That's
All right.
insane.
Wow.
I-
Awesome drafting for you.
Great
though.
drafting,
Definitely.
Hollywood. I
Yeah.
mean, there you have it, everybody. One of our own know-it-alls is hammering the draft.
Dude,
in fantasy.
absolutely.
So great
Definitely
job.
getting it done.
Yeah, I would definitely. You have no worries at wide receiver. You have no. I mean, yeah, you got definitely some nice depth. If you can get AP right now, go ahead and pick him up and pull that trade off right now for Melvin Gordon, for Zeke.
Yeah,
I think it is a
Straight
risk,
up.
but if it pays off, man, you're promised land right
dream
ahead.
Team. Yeah,
Promised
definitely.
land.
All right, moving on to the Indianapolis Colts now with the AFC South. All right, a team that made a surge last year, late a little bit again, kind of came out of the woodworks, but it was just because the first couple of weeks, Andrew Luck was getting used to throwing with that shoulder, and he was getting stronger and stronger week to week. Not looking
More
so hot.
confidence.
People were maybe wondering, like, oh, no, is he done? They also had Jacoby Brissett, which they traded for 2 years ago,
Right.
and made a nice spot, was playing well with them there. But Andrew Luck turned it on, was getting it going. You got some more T.Y. Hilton involved. You got Chester Rogers there still coming back. You said earlier, they bring in Devin Funchess. We've talked about this through the offseason too as well. That's going to be a nice fit for him as well there.
Absolutely.
And they also, we saw the resurgence of Eric Ebron sighting last season. It was crazy that this guy came out here out of just kind of like falling off the face of the planet.
Right.
Puts up his best season yet. And this year he wants to break Gronk's record and do even better, but you're going to have a healthy Jack Doyle there as well, so it'd be nice if they get both these guys involved here and get a 1-2 punch going for them as well. Marlon Mack on our top 10 projected running backs as well, and we see him to do well this season too as well. He's just got to stay healthy too. But it was nice when he had these other running backs that filled in for him when he was out. Naheem Hines and stuff, and they did well too. So let's see what goes on there. And now we'll get on the defensive side. That's where they improved too, because a year removed, we were complaining about their secondary just getting. They were killing it. They were just blowing games for them, giving it up on the deep ball, and not making it work. This year, last year they fixed it. This year we only expect even the same, if not better. They will even go in the draft in the second round, get Rock Ya-Sin too as well to add to this team. So they're just adding depth here, pieces for the defense. And Paris Campbell too in the second round too was a great pickup there for another wide receiver for them. So it's just a great team overall. I like the weapons galore. I expect a lot out of the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely, and I do as well. And you say weapons galore, but here's the other thing too: is they added another veteran who, if he can stay healthy as a pass rusher, Justin Houston is a menace to deal with. You have him and Jabal Sheard at opposite ends to play in this 4-3 scheme. I think it's a great fit. Tyquan Lewis at nose, he's going to develop. He keeps developing and getting better throughout his rookie year. Watch out for his second year. I think he's going to be even more dangerous. Danico Autry, kind of like a sleeper type of D tackle. He doesn't get talked about a lot, but a very good player nonetheless. And you look at this young linebacking core and young cornerback positions. Malik Hooker at safety. He stayed healthy last year for the most part. He delivered some crazy hits, had some crazy interceptions. Watch out for him to continue to do much of the same, as well as Jim did mention the draft pick Rock Ya-Sin, but what I think is going to end up happening is he's been like white on rice on wide receivers throughout camp. And I definitely expect him to be the starter by week 1. I think he's going to make a big impact this year for this team. They also signed Pierre Desir, who they've had recent success with. He returns back from Seattle. Kenny Moore, who they gave the highest contract for a nickel corner in NFL, and there's a reason for it because he's locked down on the inside as well. So they have a lot of youth that they're building off of with this defense, and it looks to return with a vengeance. And then if you look at the offense right there, their offensive line is like second to none. They are already one of the best young offensive lines in the league. With heading that is Quentin Nelson, a guy that we were very high on coming out of the draft, thought the world of him, and he's showing that whoever pegged him to be the number 1 lineman coming out, that they're all right. One other nice addition that I liked in the draft this past draft is Paris Campbell at wide receiver. We all know Devin Funchess, what he can do. We know what T.Y. Hilton can do. Chester Rogers played well for them last season, but Paris Campbell's an interesting receiver. I definitely think maybe not first on, because he was a second-round pick, but if he can learn the playbook and establish some chemistry with Andrew Luck, he could develop to be a starter midway through the season, or at least a little bit after that. I'm very high on Paris Campbell. Guy runs phenomenal routes, and watch for him to make an impact on this team as well. And Marlon Mack, please stay healthy. This guy is one of the most productive running backs last year after he got healthy than anybody else in this league. This guy is a difference maker in the backfield. He can run, he can catch, he can do it all. But with Nyheim Hines back there, they have some nice depth. This offense and defense, both, I think they're going to take big strides forward again. They made the playoffs when a lot of people early on didn't think they were going to even have a shot. They surprised a lot of people. I think they're going to surprise some people again.
Yeah, and the big pickups in the draft last season, Quentin Nelson, and then Darius Leonard, too, the freak. So, I mean, another season of those guys together. I mean,
Leonard got shafted from the Pro Bowl, by the way.
Yeah.
Best linebacker, especially at rookie.
Yeah. All right, so now finally moving on to the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. And what can you say here? They have a new offense coordinator, Arthur Smith, and we've talked about Arthur Smith and where he's come from. And all he has been probably the most is tight ends coach, I think, here and there is his best success, I guess. He's been on every position. I think he's floated around this organization from different – he's had like 4 or 5 different head coaches, I think. Yeah. And they just say, we'll keep him. Why not? Yeah, but now Mike Vrabel thinks it's a great idea to make him the offensive coordinator. So
wait a second. What Hollywood just chimed in.
Hey, where he goes?
He goes, I got the Bears defense.
Delaney Walker and a kicker. I have Ryan Suckup. And at QB, I got Baker and Tom Brady back up.
Are you serious?
Are you kidding me? Backup D is the Broncos. So who do I release for Peterson?
Oh, I say go Peyton Barber.
Yeah.
I mean, because you really don't know if he's going to be the starter or not. It's kind of trial and error.
Wow.
And even if he is, there's no guarantee that Barber is going to be a difference maker enough to even help you as a starter. So I would drop Peyton Barber, and if you can get Peterson, man.
Wow.
Oh,
dude.
My God.
Look at that team.
What a team.
He's got Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. Who do you start with that?
All I got to say.
You know what I mean?
All I got to say is if your team can stay healthy, knock on wood, I think you gotta. You're definitely going to be a number 1 or number 2 seed at the very least, and you're going to be tough to knock out of the playoffs. You have the potential right now. If your guys stay healthy and it all works out, you could be riding home with the championship win.
Oh, definitely, dude. He's going to be going through there.
That's insane. I cannot believe.
He's going to be popping bottles.
I cannot believe he has Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield and all these other players. Julio Jones,
That's almost
Adam
even
Thielen.
a waste on a bench for one of those players. Like, if they both start performing well, he can even move one of those guys after his bye if he gets it.
I know.
And get more players.
Can I just ask real quick, how many teams are in your league? I have to ask
10?
that.
It's got to be 10. Right?
I don't know.
Maybe less.
Because
to get that much
there's some
depth.
pretty bad. There's some people that just don't pay attention, and they kind of just do fantasy to have fun.
Well, I don't think it's 12 because to have all those guys there with 12 teams.
Just so you know,
said, it could
just
be
so you know,
bad.
I've seen people that draft terrible picks and
that's crazy
too early. So, wow. Unreal.
That is unreal. All right. Now what's unreal is the Tennessee Titans, like we were talking about, making Arthur Smith the offensive coordinator, and he is known for quoting also that, well, this will be my first time actually calling plays, so I might need some help calling some of them. So we'll see how that goes for them. And a team that their offense wasn't doing so well last year, and still their offense coordinator gets a head coaching job, Matt LaFleur, over with the Green Bay Packers. So it's very confusing here. This is another quarterback now that came out the same draft class as Jameis Winston, who is, again, on another show-me deal here with Marcus Mariota. Like Joe has said numerous times, the unfortunate thing is he's gone through so many offensive coordinators or head coaches here and there, and they've tried to make it work with
too many
them.
offenses. Man.
Yeah, and he does scramble out there, can get injured, so that's the problem you have, too, as well. And now the sneaky thing is here, too, what everybody wants to talk about the Eli Daniel Jones, battle or whatever that's non-existent. You've got Ryan Tannehill sitting behind Marcus Mariota, where I think that is a sweet spot right there. And Marcus Mariota should be really worried about his job right here because Tannehill's been around, and he's been serviceable many times for the Miami Dolphins as well. And the only real knock that he has, though, too, is that he can't stay healthy as well. So how are these quarterbacks going to work together? Well, one of them's got to stay healthy. That'll help secure their job. But now they finally have some extra weapons here now that he can throw. He's got Adam Humphries here from Tampa Bay, which is
Great
a nice
signing.
pickup here for
Great
them.
signing.
Derrick Henry hopefully will be a bigger spot for this team and not just like, what they did last year towards the end, finally figure out what they had with this guy. And Deion Lewis has to be their air attack kind of on the running back situation there with them. So hopefully they can do a little better here. Jonnu Smith not really panning out to be the guy they were kind of hoping for. I think that's why they've kept Delaney Walker around so long too as well, because he was ready to move on and pass the torch to Jonnu Smith. But I don't think he's really panned out to what they need. And on the defense now, they've got old man Cameron Wake that they bring in too as well. And Malcolm Butler's still there too as well. They got Kevin Byard, who just didn't he sign like the biggest deal for
He's the highest paid safety in the NFL.
Now in the NFL too. So Ryan Logan there in the back. So I still like some spots of their defense, but the offense is the main question here for this team. Even on the offensive line, Jack Conklin and those guys, they've got to stay healthy. So let's see what happens with this team. What do you think about the
It's funny that you just say stay healthy because Taylor Lewan is already injured.
Yeah, so
but hey, you know what? I think he'll be okay by week 1. We'll have to wait and see how everything shakes out there. This is a little bit of a change on the offensive line, is especially guards in general. They bring over Roger Saffold from the LA Rams in free agency to slap him right at left guard. They also bring Kevin Pamphile from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I'd be a little worried about that at right guard. But other than that, it's the same core of offensive linemen. You're right. They do have to stay healthy. They do have to protect. Now, here's the one thing that they do well in is they do a great job in pass or in run blocking. And that's the surprising thing is as good as these linemen are, I think their strength is run blocking versus pass blocking and trying to protect Marcus Mariota. So that's got to be straightened out. And like Jim just mentioned, is their offense, all their weaponry for offense is improved dramatically. I think with the signing of Adam Humphries, who is a stellar receiver, Corey Davis coming back again for this team. He was the go-to guy last year. I think he's definitely gonna be the same guy again. That's why they drafted him high. But here's an interesting player. Is keep an eye on not Tajay Sharp. Keep an eye on A.J. Brown this year. Yeah. He got drafted from Ole Miss. This guy runs crisp routes. He's a big body slot type receiver. You could put him out at number 2, but he's got size. He's got speed to go with that size, and he runs great routes, catches everything. A lot of people were very crazy about DK Metcalf coming out of Ole Miss and saying, "Oh wow, this guy's amazing! Look at how strong he is, how big muscles." This guy was the more productive receiver out of the two, so watch out for him. And then running back, what can you say? Oh yeah, Derrick Henry's right there, right? Run the ball.
Yeah.
Bottom line, this offensive line is built to run block. Run the ball first, and then alleviate some of the pressure on Marcus Mariota in the passing game. Run the ball. You're going to open up passing lanes for your team. Be more balanced. That's the advice I have to give you, Arthur Smith. Maybe I should just take over the clipboard from you already. But or Jim. I mean, we're both qualified.
I could do it.
Well, I think either one of us are more qualified than Arthur
Marcus
Smith.
Mariota first.
But anyway, but Ryan Tannehill, watch out for him. If Marcus Mariota struggles yet again, I'm just saying it's a possibility that Tannehill could either take over the job or, bearing an injury to Mariota again, it'll be Tannehill's team from there on. And on defense, don't really have a worry about defense. The one scary thing that I will say is that the defensive line got nastier. Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State, when he comes back healthy, this guy is going to be a nemesis to deal with in the interior. I mean, watch out, offensive lineman. He's a nasty man. He was going to be projected as a high top 5 pick if he was healthy. And watch out for him to come back. You got a lot of guys returning that are youthful on this defense. And and not Cameron Wake, obviously.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a nice stopgap type of pass rusher for them at that left outside linebacker spot. Rashaan Evans, second-year player, looks to make another big jump. Jayon Brown, I'm really high on for a linebacker for them. I think he's going to do very well for them. Harold Landry, another second-year player. So you can already see that there's a lot of youth on here as well. Kenny Vaccaro at safety. Kevin Byard, one of the best safeties in football. And these corners that they have, Malcolm Brown, a lot of you know him, Adoree Jackson, these guys are shutdown corners. So this defense is young, except for a couple positions, Cameron Wake. But, man, I think they're going to bring the heat. They're going to play very well. They're definitely going to be one of the defenses that you're going to have to contend with. But all in all, this team looks like, again, on paper, they should be competitive. They should be doing some things. So, Arthur Smith, good luck to you, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. There's the AFC South. Now, Joe, what are your picks here for the division now? How's it going to pan out?
Well, this is how it's going to pan out right here. So I have none other than the Colts winning the division. Now, I know I'm going to upset a ton of Texans fans out there because we have a big following out there from Houston. But here's the thing is nobody gave the Colts a chance last year, and they surprised me. I'm one of those people that really didn't give him a chance. I'm like, well, Andrew Luck, you're not really sure how well he's going to come back. Really what weapons do they have to use? But it was surprising how they were to be able to adapt the offense to what, whoever they lost. Marlon Mack wasn't there. Jack Doyle went down. They had a lot of answers for everything. So offensively, they were able to put up points. This young defense kind of came together week to week as it went on. They became stronger as a unit. I think they're going to take another big leap this year, and they are going to probably win this division, hands down. Texans, again, I really do like the Texans. I think they're going to be one of the more competitive teams in this division as well. And let's be honest, every division's competitive amongst each other. So, but I just don't know about this offensive line. I don't know if it's going to hold off long term and be able to protect Watson like he needs to be protected and open up running lanes for Lamar Miller. That's a little concerning for me. So that's why I have him kind of like just below the Colts. Jacksonville Jaguars, yes, Nick Foles is there. And quite honestly, this could flip-flop. Jacksonville Jaguar could easily get to the second seed or in this division and beat out Texans, but we'll have to wait and see. Foles, brand new quarterback. Let's see how this all accumulates together and how well this defense that's lost a couple players, see how they adapt to that. So I got the Jacksonville Jaguars there at number 3. And then Titans, let's just be honest. I don't think the coaching staff is up to par. I don't think they're, unless drastic changes happen with the philosophy there, I don't know how well this offense is going to perform. Even though they got a lot of new additions, I think they've improved the offense. And defensively, who knows? They might be on the field again a while.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Now you're going to my picks. Like Joe said, flip-flop, and that's what I did here now with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. I go with the Tennessee Titans here, rounding up the bottom. Again, I haven't liked Marcus Mariota since the beginning. I don't see any real major development either, so I don't like what they're doing here. I'll take them as the bottom feeders. The Houston Texans, again, I think they're kind of staying the course, and I think that could be the wrong kind of thing to do here with this division. The Colts have been making moves, getting younger, fresher, and now they're on the up and coming here. So I think the Texans have had their opportunities, but with the Jacksonville Jaguars making the improvements here and there and at the quarterback position, they should be able to elevate their self at least back up into the playoffs or making a shot to take this division here. And I see them flip-flopping right here, but I like the Colts just like you do, Joe, here. They've got every phase, I think, going right for them here, especially for this division. It's ripe for the picking, and I like the Indianapolis Colts here to take the division here. And Hollywood Gaming joins in here about his fantasy.
Yeah. He said,
all I'm saying is I've never won a fantasy championship. Let me tell you
you're
something,
about to now.
Hollywood Gaming. It's tough because a lot of it, Joe and I have talked about this, a lot of it's luck. Dude, it's all luck. Some of you guys, people who picked Le'Veon Bell, whoever thought that he would hold out the whole way.
No.
Certain guys, when they grabbed David Johnson, he got injured for the whole season.
Yep.
That was their first pick ever.
Devontae Freeman as well, too.
put it this way. Also, I've put together numerous teams that were 11-2 and things like that, or 9-2, very strong teams, very competitive, get bye weeks, and then right in the next week lose to like a 5-something team, like a loser team that just happened to have a great week that week. So you never know. I've put together great teams every season, though, and I've never won a championship. I've been in championship games like 3 times. Just can't do it. It happens, but sometimes never say it's never your year. We had the guy who ended up winning Joe's division or his league one year, who the beginning of the season was saying his team was trash, and he ended up winning the thing. And, and it's all just because how the guys play, fighting through the injuries, and happening to guess on what guy's going to produce that week. Matchups. Check your matchups. So
I got to cut in here real quick 'cause I just got a notification, and apparently Eric Brown agrees with us at tight end as the Indianapolis Colts. He also says that the Colts are going to win the AFC South.
Look at that.
So,
he was just listening.
there we go.
He just chimed in. He's like,
Just
I heard that
chimed in.
from Jim and Joe. Hey, Eric Brown's. I didn't know he was on our side.
Apparently
watching
he's
it through YouTube.
watching. So
Excellent. Cool. That's good. Excellent. So, yeah, I don't know if that makes you feel like 10 people, but that makes sense. See? 10 people, bigger
that-
pool.
It makes sense,
get a better
but
team.
here's a crazy thing: is I'm actually surprised that you were able to get not just Julio Jones but also Adam Thielen. That to me is the bigger thing. Larry Fitzgerald. Some people shy away from him because of his age. They're saying, "Oh, well, he can't do it again. He can't do it again. He can't do it again." He still keeps doing it. So I think those 3 right there at receiver, absolutely deadly. And George Kittle. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. That
Are you
was like,
kidding
how
me?
did they leave him out there?
Along with I'm just amazed. I really am. I know it's 10 people, but wow. Just wow. Great. I will commend you,
Yeah,
Hollywood Gaming.
absolutely.
That's a great draft, and I would be super proud of that if it was my team. That's for sure. That's really good.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Joe, it's time for the drop, buddy.
All right, let's get into this. Trey Boston. We already said this earlier in the show, but Trey Boston agrees to a deal with the Carolina Panthers. 1 year, reportedly worth about $3 million. That's like nothing. That's insane. What a great grab for the Carolina Panthers. The Raiders and Allegiant Airlines have agreed to a naming rights deal for the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium. So further development on with the and mind you, they just put in and had the last beam ceremony for the stadium. So all the steel is up. Now it's a lot of cosmetic work that's being done. Already the roof is being put on and so forth, the walls. So it's coming along pretty quickly.
I tell you, TJ Monroe has been keeping us up to date on this
That's right.
structure, man.
I know.
On the construction.
He's definitely has. He's been doing a great job as a know-it-all. He constantly posts in our group. So
Excellent.
we got you, TJ. Shout out to you. Ravens signing Pro Bowl special teamer Brandon Trawick. Now, this is kind of like a big deal for special teams because this guy, I mean, I've seen him. He bounces team to team to team. But, man, does he deliver some crucial hits on special teams. He makes some great tackling plays. He's the guy that you definitely want on your special teams. Theo Riddick signs new deal with the Broncos over the Saints, everybody. That's kind of surprising to me. I thought for sure Theo Riddick, when he took his visit with New Orleans, I was like, oh, he's going to go there with Alvin Kamara. No. He ended up deciding to go with Denver, which I'm really kind of perplexed on because they already got 2 young studs there.
Yeah,
You know,
I didn't get it. I
don't know.
thought he was going to go definitely some other places. There's definitely other options. So
Ex-Panthers center Ryan Khalil ends his retirement just to sign a 1-year contract with the New York Jets. Now, a few episodes ago, we've talked about the Jets, and me personally, I wasn't really high in this offense. I'm like, they still got to work on this offensive line. Well, wouldn't you have it? They managed to talk and convince Ryan Khalil to come back, a Pro Bowl center, to add to that offensive line of theirs, and they pulled off a trade for Alex Lewis, a starting guard for the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know. My opinions might be changing pretty soon with the Jets if they keep this ball rolling. NFL requested random drug screening from running back Steven Jackson after a 1-day Rams contract to retire. This is the most hilarious
so
thing.
Weird, dude.
NFL.
Why would you do that?
I mean, what is your problem?
Yeah.
This guy signed a 1-day contract just to retire as a
Yeah.
Ram. What do you, random drug test? Get out of here.
Yeah, ridiculous, man.
Jaguars linebacker Quincy Williams, we touched on this earlier, the third-round pick who has been impressive in camp, is out 4 to 6 weeks with a slight tear in his meniscus. Kicker Phil Dawson announced his retirement and will officially retire as none other than a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah.
So, great job, Phil Dawson, on a
I
terrific
thought he
career.
retired years ago. I guess he...
No,
Oh, yeah.
just happened.
Wow.
So-
Huh.
and that's why you tune in to the drop.
Yeah,
you get to learn. all
there
these
you
things.
go. Like, I didn't know he was still relevant.
Broncos head coach Vic Fangio coached in the NFL Hall of Fame game, but what you didn't know is that despite being hospitalized for kidney stone, which didn't pass, he still coached in that game. So, like the great Gandalf wizard from Lord of the Rings said, "You shall not pass."
Oh,
And
that's just
neither did
rough.
his stone.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what's worse dealing than dealing with the stone or dealing with watching Drew Luck's gameplay.
I know, but that's the funny thing is Vic Fangio thought he did good.
I get it. Drew Lock just did not play well at all.
Unbeknownst to everybody else that
Yeah.
thinks he had a terrible outing, Vic Fangio, just stick with defense, bud.
Yeah, let's do it.
Former Jacksonville Jaguars and Tennessee Titans safety Jonathan Cyprien signed a one-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. So, another safety off the free agent market ends up going with the Eagles. Add some depth because that secondary is kind of getting a little banged up already. Free agent quarterback Maurice Claiborne is facing a 4-game suspension for violations of the NFL's substance abuse policy, per Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo of NFL Network.
Winners don't use drugs.
I just don't understand this. Week to week, there's always something about some player for substance abuse. What is wrong with you guys? Do you guys even check with the trainer?
What the fuck is going on?
I agree. I mean, you have all these resources to stay out of trouble, and what do you choose not to use them? I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Ex-Saints and Bears wide receiver Cameron Meredith has just signed a one-year contract with none other than the New England Patriots. Some people were like, well, who cares? He'll probably be cut by the end of camp, whatever. But you know what? If this guy gets healthy, this is just a perfect New England move. This is what they do.
It's what they do.
Not only is Cameron Meredith young, he has age on his side, but if he gets healthy, he could be a difference maker for this receiving core, which is already stacked. Just saying. With corner Mike Hughes from the Vikings still recovering and Holton Hill on an 8-game suspension because he's a dope. Vikings signed cornerback Benny Benwickery, per Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, to add some depth here. Come on. Holton Hill, what are you thinking? Cliff Branch, ex-wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders, a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and 3-time All-Pro receiver for the Raiders, has died tragically, the team announced. Branch passed away after his birthday on this past Thursday at the age of 71, and sadly he's gone from us this past Saturdays when he passed away. It's a terrible day for the Oakland Raiders fans and Cliff Branch's family and friends. Our condolences go out to you guys, and hope you can get through this.
Hey, last week, I didn't get to check out when I was watching last week. Did you put on there about Nick Bonicatti?
Yes.
I didn't get to see it, but yeah, man, that was rough.
If you
When I
watched-
saw that too, I tried to.
If
I
you
tried
watched
to
the
when
drop,
I was on here.
You were in second,
in and
bro.
out. I was
You were in
trying to.
second.
I was trying to beat Hollywood and be my own MVP of my own show, but I could not do it. That's how good Hollywood Gaming is.
That's right.
But yeah, that's sad. I'm
Yeah.
sad to hear about Nick Bonicatti too, man. I used to watch him growing up, and that's tough.
Texans placed Deontay Foreman on waivers, unhappy with running back's work habits. Question his work ethic, and really wasn't up to the standards of the Houston Texans. So now he's moved on. None other than the Indianapolis Colts recently claimed him off waivers, and they're going to give him a shot to possibly make this roster as well. Now, I'll say this. Deontay Foreman, very young still. If he can get out of that funk of his and work hard, he could be a difference maker for the Colts. He's very talented. I'd hate to see that talent go to waste. Tom Brady and the Patriots agree on a 2-year contract extension on the sum of $23 million. A lot of people kind of like going up in arms over this because technically it's an extension, but it's like a year-to-year basis, and people are throwing their hands and arms up there and going, wait a second, does this mean that Tom Brady could potentially be a free agent next year? Oh my God. Slow your roll, because all it is it's a team and player friendly contract year to year for the next couple of years. So that way, if either Tom decides to retire, it doesn't screw over the organization. And if the organization wants to move on from him, Tom will just take early retirement and be happy and be done. So
Boom, shakalaka.
people need to calm down a little bit. I don't think Tom Brady's going
he's
anywhere.
He's going to be a free agent. He's going to come here. Yeah. I don't think so.
And here's the thing is, we'd say money talks, right? Houston Texans star Jadeveon Clowney is reporting back to the team, expected to report after the third preseason game and end his holdout. Because game checks are coming, baby. Week 1 of the regular season, he wants to be there to collect it. He's not going to try to hold out. And Dallas Cowboys have decided to move on from tight end Rico Gathers. He's been a veteran for that team. He's been around, but who knows? Maybe they're so comfortable with the return of Jason Witten and a couple of other young studs that they have. They decided, hey, you know what? We've seen enough.
Yeah.
Wide receiver Michael Crabtree thought he had a deal in place with the Cardinals, but apparently he remains a free agent because they just couldn't agree to terms.
He could sign a deal.
And it's funny because Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network initially reported this and said, "Oh, deal's done. He's going to the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a great addition to them." Blah 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 blah. And a few hours later, wasn't the case. They just never could agree to terms. And Crabtree, I have to say this: you're 33 years old. Take a deal, whatever the deal may be. Take the money and play for the team. No one's going to give you a big deal, big contract. I think that's the problem right here.
Yeah,
I think he's got a Des Bryant complex right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does.
That's what he's got. Maybe he's just high on getting lifetime crab cakes still for not even being on the Baltimore Ravens anymore.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Freddie Kitchens threatens to fire any Browns employee if they leak information from Cleveland. And Freddie's had it. Freddie's calling out everybody saying, if I find out you leak one shred of information, you're done.
Yes.
He's putting his foot down. Raiders cornerback Nevin Lawson suspended for 4 games for, again, PED violation.
What?
And here's the thing is it's self-announced.
What?
So Nevin Lawson just announced this a couple days ago, but the NFL hasn't officially come out and said anything about Nevin Lawson being suspended. So I'm waiting to see what the deal is with this. The 49ers have activated running back Jerick McKinnon from the physically unable to perform list. This is good news for the 49ers, getting back a starter from last year. With this crowded backfield, though, I'm really wondering who is the real starter. I mean, they got 4 running backs right now that could start for any other team. Who is going to be the answer for San Fran? The Dallas Cowboys defensive end Robert Quinn suffered a fractured hand, but is expected to be ready for his team's September 8th regular season opener game against none other than the New York Giants, per John Makata of The Athletic. You know, what can you say? Injuries happen. He'll be ready for week 1. But you know what? I don't know about Robert Quinn playing defensive end for the Cowboys. I don't think he's going to be that big of a difference maker. NFL veteran tight end. Now, this was a surprise to me, as Niles Paul has announced that he is retiring. A guy who I felt still had some gas in the tank, who could play and contribute to a team. He's just decided to call it quits right now. Raiders wide receiver Antonio Brown suffered none other than frostbitten feet from cryotherapy machine because he just wasn't wearing the proper footwear when he was in the machine.
Yeah.
And now, if you can go ahead and look on our Twitter at FB_no, and we posted on there a picture from none other than Antonio Brown about his feet, and they're just crackled up. They're peeling. It's a mess.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to be really worried about because, you know, he's still healing. He's running and everything else. He's just not going full go in training camp.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, well,
it's just, come on.
Do things to stay healthy, and a cryo chamber is a good idea, but you got to know what to do.
Yeah.
You almost messed up your career doing it, so hopefully he heals up fine in doing it. So
honestly, come on, Antonio, what do you think?